Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the HerStory Online Summit. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. We are back again for yet another 11 amazing days, another 110 speakers coming to us from all over the world. And it really excites me to finish our year on such a high note with a real bang. Wow, what a year it has been. I think the HerStory movement has managed to curate well over 3,000 stories in the last 2 years. And man, what a ride it has been. So I'm going to add our speakers to the panel. Welcome, 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 Jessica. Lovely to see you there. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Gertrude. How are you?
Oh, I am awesome. I was just saying how exciting it is to end our year on such a high note. We have managed to curate well over 3,000 stories in the last 2 years from women in, I think we counted 25 countries so far. And yeah, it is an amazing, amazing ride that we have been on. And I know that you are one of our amazing speakers for the day, and we're really looking forward to seeing what beautiful nuggets of wisdom you're going to bring to the HerStory movement as well. So, ladies, the next 10 days, and gentlemen, I have to remember that we have a lot of men who are following us through social media. The next 10 days are going to be phenomenal. We have managed to attract, it humbles me, Jessica, when I think of people like you who have stepped forward and are really sharing who you are, the knowledge you have, and inspiring our audience with these phenomenal stories. So we'll start with our first presenter. Jessica, you will be second. The first presenter is based here in Australia as well. And she is an amazing lady who sent us a video. We actually had to do an interview with her to be able to participate because she couldn't be here in person. So Michelle, thank you so much for the interview. Lovely to have you as being a part of our tribe. So I'll cue up her video and then we will start our day. After we watch this video, we'll do a Q&A session like we always do. And the Q&A session is us really giving her feedback. Although she's not here, she will get an opportunity to watch this video as well. So the first person is Maria Olson. Now, for some of you who know Maria, she is not new to the HerStory movement. She has presented 2 or 3 times, and she's also been a chairperson for the HerStory movement. And Maria is based in, I think it is Washington, D.C. in the United States. She is a lawyer who discovered her vocation at the age of 50. Maria has just become a TED speaker. She's also a radio and a podcast host. So Maria, thank you so much. Excited to have you with us virtually today. And the good thing is when we put together this video, I did manage to ask Maria questions, and then we will discuss her presentation after it's done. So here we go with our first presenter.
Gertrude. Our paths have crossed several times, and I've been so thrilled to watch your work and how your reach has expanded to so many women that you help with your enthusiasm, which is utterly infectious. So my name is Maria Olson. I am based in Washington, D.C., the United States. I'm 58 years old. I'm an author, lawyer, podcaster, radio show host in Washington, D.C. And I started my life over at age 50. I drank my way out of a 25-year marriage. And at age 50, I got sober, divorced, became an empty nester, and essentially started over. I had not practiced law in 15 years because I was lucky enough to be an at-home mom when I was married and my children were young. But at age 50, I had to start over. So I decided for my 50th birthday to gift myself a year of trying new things. And in my 50th year, I tried 50 new things to determine how I wanted to live the next chapter of my life. And those things spanned spiritual endeavors, learning and teaching, travel, social activities, lifestyle changes, and each one taught me something about what I either wanted to do or not do in the next chapter of my life. And what it really uncovered for me is an authenticity that was lacking in the first 50 years of my life, where I was a chronic people pleaser, where I was chameleon-like and trying to bend who I was to accommodate other people. At age 50, I shed all that and came to the realization that not everyone is going to like me, and I can't control what other people think, so I can only control what I think. And I learned how to design a life that was in alignment with who I am and my values.
Please tell everybody.
And now I have never been happier. I feel like I have reached a centered place in my life. I incorporated meditation into my life, my own brand of minimalism, having learned maybe the hard way that it is experiences that bring me joy. No physical things bring me lasting joy. So I focus on experiences in this part of my life. And my favorite thing to do is to travel, to learn about new things and new ideas, and to keep expanding my my perceptions of the world. And I have this feeling like I'm on the down slope of the time I have left in this world. So it has infused my days with intentionality and a real passion for discarding the things that don't matter to me and really surrounding myself with people who lift me up and bring out the best in me. And so I feel like I have been in some ways reborn at 50. And I'm just so delighted to share. My book is called 50 After 50, Reframing the Next Chapter of Your Life. It's available everywhere. And my website is marialeonardolson.com if you want to learn about the other things that I do. So I guess my meeting you coincided with my sort of rising from the ashes of some pretty traumatic stuff in my life. And so I think it was very fortuitous that I learned about you and your work and how you try to uplift women all over the world. And so I'm really grateful.
Wonderful to have you back, Maria. You know, your story always fascinates me. It doesn't matter how many times I hear it. I know that a lot of women, once they've reached the age of 50, really suffer in that we lose self-confidence. We are trying to reinvent ourselves. You aren't who you used to be anymore. For you, you were a mother, you were a wife, you were a stay-at-home mom, and then you were thrust into the workplace at the age of 50. What did you do to change? What did you have to do to fit in again? Take us through that process in case there's a woman right now who's listening who has a similar story and is needing help.
Yes, I mean, it was a little bit daunting because technology had just exploded during the time I was a stay-at-home mom. So the practice of law became much more technology reliant, and I had to learn a new way of practicing law, but the nuts and bolts of the practice was still the same. And I was worried that I had sort of like my brain had atrophied because I hadn't used it for analysis in the way I had before I had children, but it hadn't. And I took the bar exam for a different state and I passed. And that gave me the confidence that while I might not know how to navigate the technology like the young lawyers at the firm that I joined, I still had the power of experience, maturity, and analysis. That doesn't go away. And in fact, the fact that I was so centered and nobody could rattle me at that point. Like I used to be really nervous going to court or being in a deposition, but now with perspective, as we age, I realize that all the other people in the room are just people, and no one's going to die if I make a mistake here. And that if I remain calm and centered, I can do a really good job. And so sometimes the other lawyers at my firm, especially the young ones, are like, how do you stay so calm? We're on deadline. We're on deadline. But I say to them, you know, take a deep breath. Wear life like a loose garment. You're much more effective if you can stay present in the moment and not let yourself have racing thoughts and keep worrying about what might happen. Just stay present and focused on the task at hand. And I think that because we as women are better multitaskers than most men anyway, that it equips us to take a lot of data in and synthesize it in a way maybe some of, well, I don't know, maybe my male colleagues might hear this, so I'm not going to go down that route. But I'm just going to say that we women are very good at gathering and synthesizing information. And so I would say to your listeners, don't sell yourself short. If you are a woman who has had the experience of decades of lifetime, you are smart, you are enough, you know what to do, and nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent.
I love that. It is interesting that, you know, how you said you were worried that you hadn't practiced and that your brain wouldn't be able to remember all of this stuff, and yet that wasn't the case. We are harder on ourselves than we really should be as women. And I'm really glad that you jumped right back in there, and now you're setting an example to younger people in the workplace on how to be, because everybody's nervous. It doesn't matter what environment you're in. Everybody does get nervous when they're put in a certain situation. So let's talk a little bit about your book and what people can expect from this book and why you wrote it.
Well, I didn't intend to write a book when I set out on my year of reframing my life. But every time someone asked me, what are you doing for your 50th birthday? And I told them about my experiment of trying 50 new things, people kept asking me for the list. And I thought, wow, well, I guess I have something here that people want to read. So I started keeping notes about my year and turned it into a book, and an agent shopped it around and got a good publisher. So it's also available on Audible as an audiobook. And in the book, I talk about the first third is my journey to self-discovery, about getting sober and overcoming trauma. I am a survivor of sexual assault, and I didn't tell anyone for decades because I thought it was my fault for being drunk at the time. And so I had a lot of unresolved trauma that I had to work through to be able to be fully present and to move forward in my life. So it talks about how I dealt with trauma of my youth, and how I got sober, and how I learned to have proper boundaries as an adult, how I really grew up in midlife. And so the second part of the book is about the 50 new things and what each of those things taught me. And like I said in the intro, some of the things I will never, ever do again, but they taught me something. For instance, I'm a terrible singer, but I wanted to know what it felt like to sing on stage. So I went to an open mic at a place where I didn't know anybody. And I got on stage and I belted out a song and I was terrible. But what it taught me was that being scared is not going to kill me, and that I can move through fear and still be okay. So it was a very useful experience for me, but I never have to do that again. I don't have to punish people. People don't have to listen to me sing. So that was one of the things. Another thing I did was that I still do today, 8 years later, is my own brand of minimalism, where for every one new thing I bring into my home, I get rid of or recycle or donate 2 things, because I have now dealt with the estate or the belongings of my father and my stepfather, and they both had too much stuff. My stepfather was a hoarder. So I'm not going to saddle my children with all of my memories and things that I've collected over my life. They don't want them. The young people today, they don't even want china or crystal or any of that fancy stuff. So I'm trying to live a more simple lifestyle. And I really would much rather spend my resources on experiences than any physical things at this point in my life.
Oh, I love that. So out of the 50 things that you did, what was the best thing you did and what was the worst?
The best thing I did was I volunteered in a remote village in Nepal, high in the Himalayas, 8 hours from the closest road. And the people there had so little, no running water, no electricity, yet they were among the happiest people I've ever met. And what that became for me was an exercise in cultivating gratitude and realizing just how many blessings I had and how many blessings these people had, because what was more important, again, were the relationships and the camaraderie and the feeling good about themselves. And I got to spend time in the grandeur of the Himalayas. It was such a physically beautiful place. I got to watch the sunrise from one of the highest points on the globe. It was just such an awe-inspiring experience in the true meaning of the word awe. So that was the best experience of my life. I will never take my blessings for granted ever again, after having seen parts of the world where they don't have access to medical care or clean water or the things that we take for granted in developed nations. The worst thing that I did, well, it was probably that open mic night because I'm such a bad singer. But well, I tried dating online, and that was not a good thing. I call the chapter in my book Dating for Dowagers. And it was filled with all the things I tried as someone who hadn't dated anyone in 25 years. It's a weird feeling to be back on the dating market. And some of the people that I met on Match.com had pictures that were decades old of them. You know, like a guy would be online with a full head of hair and show up bald. And I don't mind bald. In fact, my current significant other is bald, but I mind duplicity. So that told me right then and there that the person wasn't being honest. So I guess I would say doing some of that online dating stuff, no, I find it's better to meet I advise my single girlfriends to do things you're interested in, and then you'll meet people who are interested in the same things you're interested in. There's a running group in my neighborhood called the Montgomery County Roadrunners Club. 50 couples have met and married just by doing these weekly runs. So they're fitness-minded people. They go out for dinner after the group run. And so you meet someone who's already interested in fitness. And it's a lovely way to meet someone. Or we are lucky in the nation's capital that we have the Smithsonian Institution, which is museums, and they sponsor classes. So why not take a class in something you're interested in, and then you'll meet someone else who's interested in the same thing. So that's, for me, a better place to meet someone you want to spend time with.
That is fantastic and really good advice. I know it's difficult when you are married and you're suddenly finding yourself in this new world of online dating and not meeting people face to face. You will meet the right person if you have the right interest. So that's really a juicy piece of advice there. So if I could take you back to the younger you as my last question, to that younger woman who was going through a struggle with her marriage, eventually getting divorced, do you think you should have left earlier? What were the signs? What advice could you give somebody else who's sitting on the fence right now thinking, am I doing the right thing or am I going to make a big mistake?
I think my number one piece of advice to myself as a younger woman would have been, you are enough. I was plagued with imposter syndrome and feeling just deficient. And I didn't have to feel that way. I gave away my power. I would say that had I worked on myself and my own happiness, because I firmly believe that no one is responsible for anyone else's happiness. We're each responsible for our own happiness. But had I done the work in resolving my childhood traumas, discovering the authentic Maria, and being comfortable with who I am, then perhaps I wouldn't have ever gotten divorced, because I was so damaged and I had so much work to do on myself. And I think that within a relationship, if one of the people is not happy with themselves, the relationship is likely to fail.
Yeah.
So I would advise anyone who feels like they're in a not happy marriage, make yourself happy first.
Yes.
See if you can be your best self, and then your relationship may resolve itself. Because if you're not living a life authentic to you and happy with you, nobody else is going to be happy with you either.
Amazing. Again, excellent advice. It is about us filling ourselves up first so that you're full and you're whole. By the time you meet somebody else, they're not there to compliment you or to fill a void. You're already full emotionally. Absolutely love that piece of advice. Maria, it's always a pleasure to reconnect with you. Thank you again for coming on to our podcast. I look forward to hearing how life unfolds for you going forwards. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. Please come back again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now. And thank you again, Maria.
Thank you so very much.
Bye-bye, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. Let's bring on our panel, Ruth, Jessica. That was the lovely Maria in the United States. And her story is so fascinating. You know, at the age of 50, we can challenge ourselves and reinvent our lives. I just love the fact that she went on a quest to do these 50 things. Absolutely fascinating. What did you think, Jessica? I'm not sure if Ruth is with us. I know she was having problems with her internet connection this morning, but do chime in here.
I think she was totally inspiring. I've been through something so similar in actually very recent, and I love that idea of taking that time in the first year and how she did 50 things and really explore what would give her joy and what was not her thing. Yeah, she's just delightful how she took that on and then started back in the workforce. Superbly
Yeah.
inspiring story.
And this minimalistic lifestyle, how many times do we keep things we don't actually need? We actually just hoard stuff most of the time. And she's just incredible. She just decided she wasn't going to do that. Each time she buys something, she really thinks about it. And we do leave a lot of stuff for people to clean up after we're gone. I think that was the other biggest take home that I got from her presentation as well. Absolutely fascinating. So now we are going to launch into your presentation, Jessica. Ruth, if you are there, unmute. We can see you. I know you're technologically challenged this morning. Just chime in here and say hi to everyone if you can before I move on to our next speaker. Yeah, I think Ruth is having a challenging time. Okay, so we'll go on to you, Jessica. Let me officially introduce you. You and I met, oh gosh, it was earlier this year. And I think it was through LinkedIn or through another weird series of coincidences. You are into holistic health. You're a coach, you're a mentor, and you're helping women take their energy and health back so they can live the life they love. I absolutely love that. The Her Story movement is all about that, wanting to make sure that we help women really develop their gifts, develop their talents. And we will play your video next, and then we will do a Q&A session with you and pick your brain and find out more information about you. So here we go. I'll cue up your video. Thank you for the contribution. I did struggle with downloading it, but I think I found a way that we can play it without having to download the video. So here we go.
Hi, I'm so excited to be with you here today and share with you how you too can awaken the doctor within. Share with you my story, my passion for health and well-being. Now, living long in good health, isn't that what we all dream about? Fact is, people get sick, and fact is, more and more people today get diagnosed with a chronic disease like heart disease, diabetes, dementia, depression, autoimmune condition. Old people and young people alike are told you just have to learn to live with it. They may get prescribed medication to deal with the symptoms so they will feel better. But over time, they may need more medication to deal with the side effects of the original medication. I find that tremendously alarming. What if there was a way that you could actually prevent the condition in the first place? Or what if there's a way that you could turn around your autoimmune condition and could feel better and get your life back? My name is Jessica Maas. I live in Australia and I'm an online integrative nutrition health coach. I specialize in cellular health. And I help women and men take their life back, feel that energy again and that zest for life. I do that by finding the root cause of their condition, which often science has shown that often this goes back to a traumatic experience or a stressful situation in their life. And once we found that, we create the perfect new habits that they're happy with to change their lifestyle. And then I help and guide to integrate those habits into their life over time. Now, for me, My passion for health has been around for a long time. It started already when I was 14. I was diagnosed with glandular fever, and it actually presented itself with tonsillitis. My tonsils got so big so fast that I had very little space to breathe, and they kept growing. My mum and I were so concerned that I would choke to death. The doctor said, just stick with it. There's nothing I can do. This is a virus. There's no medication. My mum went to look for a solution and found homeopathics very quickly. This is all these years ago. Thank you, Mum, because within 12 hours overnight, my tonsils shrank so much that there was plenty of space for me to breathe, and I was comfortable. So grateful. It was at that point in time that it was embedded in me that there are other solutions. If the doctor says, I don't have anything, and you have to live with this, then there are other solutions. Something can always be done. So here I am now years later, when in 2014, I was presented with a health crisis. And again, I was told, you just have to live with it. This is what happened. I woke up one morning tremendously fatigued, absolutely exhausted. Not only that, I had a skin rash all over my face, my cheeks, my nose, my forehead that was burning hot, so itchy, bright red and blisters. I was shocked. I thought I'll stay at home for a few days, maybe it'll just go away. I didn't want to leave the home. I was so embarrassed with the way I looked, and I felt awful. Now, after 3 days, it hadn't gone away. I went to see the doctor. He gave me a little tube of cream. He said, take this, when it's finished, come back if you've still got the problem. After a week, the tube was finished. I went back to see the doctor. He said, well, actually, Jeske, this is a condition that happens to some women of your age. And you just have to live with it because there is no cure. We don't know why you have it, where it's come from, and just keep taking this cream. Now, that didn't sit well with me. One, because the cream is full of chemicals, and I knew that chemicals so much on my skin is not good for my body. My body is not made to process chemicals like that. And on top of that, I knew there's always something that can be done. So I went to see a naturopath, and with the help of the naturopath, I went on to a 6-week detox. And that was amazing. I cleaned out my system. I took out gluten and dairy and carbohydrate, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, all those things, which wasn't easy to do in the beginning. But I did it because I was committed to take away that rash out of my face. And you know what? It got a lot better, but not completely. So I stayed on that diet for many, many, many months. In fact, 18 months. In the meantime, I did research about how gluten affects your body, how dairy affects your body, and all those things about nutrition. My rash was manageable in the sense that it was no longer itchy, it was no longer burning, but there was still a rash that came and went, maybe once a week, and I'd get obsessed with what was it that I had in the last 24 hours through my mouth that might have triggered that. And I couldn't find it until in 2020, I had a sudden traumatic marriage breakup. And I realized it was important for me to go into absolute self-care, look after myself. And after a couple of months, my rash was no longer there. So from there, I really looked into holistic health. And here I am. I've been practicing integrative nutrition, health coaching for a year now. I have been able to help so many people, and especially myself as well. Now, what do? I use the 5 pillars of health. And these are, I just like to discuss with you briefly what these are. In a workshop in January, I can go much more into this. Now, first of all, the first one is nutrition. The second one is joyful living. The third one, connection. The fourth one, body movement. And the fifth one is sleep. Now, let's go over them just briefly. Nutrition. So it's there's so much food out there. You go to the supermarket, there's so much food out there, whether it's packaged or non-packaged. But as I said before, chemicals are not good for your body. Your body was not made to deal with chemicals. So stick with non-processed foods. They are fresh vegetables and fresh fruit. And clean meats that are really of healthy animals that have grown in the paddock, if you want to call it that way, without antibiotics. And only a little bit of meat, no more than the palm of your hand. That is all you need. And so that is what it is. I like to keep things very simple when it comes to nutrition. Now, let's have a look at a joyful life. That is really all about stress management. And for me, as I said to you, there's a lot of things that you can do. And I'd like to just touch upon a few that really worked for me. And these are having a massage, being grateful every day for what you have. When you feel grateful and really truly appreciate the food on your plate, the roof over your head, the sun shining on your face, or the rain that's feeding looking after the plants and the trees and the planet. Being grateful brings joy, inner joy, and you forget the other trouble that is going on in your life. Going and having a dance in the kitchen really worked for me. Also focusing something new to learn, so that you focused when you're on something that you're passionate about, whether it's learning to dance, learning to play a musical instrument, or learning to do yoga, that totally has you focused in the moment and stops you having those horrible thoughts about what's causing you stress. Now, number 3 is connection. And connection is essential in life. Let's look at the blue zone areas in the world. Those are 7 areas in the world where people lived. There are lots and lots of people live healthy way past 100 years, and that their diets and cultures are very different. But what is the same in all of those cultures is that they are very well connected in their families and communities. And so it's actually been shown that loneliness reduces your life by 15 years. So stay connected, with friends and family. Have that sense of belonging where you go, yes, and it creates such a sense of peace. Then we have body movement. I call it body movement because body movement, the exercise can be such a feeling of, dread, and makes you already tense up and get stressed. Whilst exercise, it makes you maybe think of the gym and you don't want to know about it. Body movement is something that you can do anywhere, and it may just happen as you go along, whatever you need to be doing around the house, whether that is cleaning, or maybe you're going for a walk, whether it's dancing or gardening. And of course you can do exercise. You can go running and vigorous walking and push-ups, yoga, all these things. What it does, it creates the happy hormone in your body, so that you look at the world all joyfully, makes your cells dance, as well as it gives you that feeling of, it creates energy in your body and sets you up right for the day. And then there is sleep. And sleep, actually, if you sleep 7 to 8 hours a night, deep sleep, it resets your body, it resets your brain, it resets all these different systems in your body, that whilst you're resting, there's a lot of work going on. There is detox going on. Your liver gets to detox everything that needs to come out. So sleep is essential for a long, healthy life. Now, coming back to all these different sections. So we're talking nutrition and joy, connection, the body movement and sleep. They all are interconnected. Sleep resets all these different systems. if you don't have good nutrition, you actually get stressed and you have a bad mood. If you don't have much of a connection, you get stressed and your digestion stops. So all of these are interconnected to the body to keep your body healthy. Now, I want to talk to you about the body for a moment. What is the body? The body is made up of muscles and bones and organs and tissues and nerves and brain, and is part of your organs, your skin, an organ. So there's a lot there. And what are they all made of? Everything in your body is made of cells. To keep it simple, when your cells are healthy, you're healthy. And the 5 pillars of health help to keep your cells healthy, all the goodness that comes from that. Now, have you ever thought about how does the body know to which cells to send extra goodness, cells that might be damaged? Now, that is a whole communication network that's in your body. It is a huge cell signaling network throughout your body where it signals messages to every split second, and that's to detect a damaged cell, and if it finds a damaged cell, to send the message that it needs to be healed and repaired with the goodness that you're putting into your body. Now, so that network is foundational to your cell's health, and it's foundational to your overall health. And well, when the cell signaling network is damaged, it's not working optimal, no matter how much nutrition and love and joy you put in there, it's always going to be sluggish, and your cells cannot have their full healing potential. So your health breaks down. So this is a relatively new science. It's called the science of redox cell signaling. It is well known all over the world. It's taught as part of biochemistry at universities. There's an annual symposium on redox biochemistry. Now, also the last 20 years, more and more is known about the cellular health and epigenetics. You may have heard of that. It's the study of genetic pathways and how genes are expressed. It's absolutely fascinating. Now, what is known about cell signaling is that it slows down as we age. It's called the aging process, totally normal. That's why we get earlier, sooner tired when we're older, when things break more easily and, the cuts don't heal that well. Now, that's all because of that communication network between the cells that is not functioning as efficiently anymore. Now, also toxins, environmental toxins, toxins in our food that I was talking about earlier, toxins in our cosmetics, to shampoo, all sorts of stuff in air and water that we drink, as well as emotional stress, all slowing down that communication network, which means that your damaged cells don't get healed and repaired as efficiently as it did when you were young and healthy. Now, imagine if you could actually boost that cell signaling network. Just as you can work on your 5 pillars of health, you can work on your cell signaling network. Now, I have implemented the tools, and I can tell you that my energy has soared. I do no longer get tired in the middle of the day. My digestion has improved so much. I have mental clarity, and I hardly ever get sick. So for me, not only that, I feel so much younger. So now it's my mission to educate people around the world on how for them to boost their cell signaling network, as well as implement those 5 pillars of health, and to really optimize the potential to live a long, healthy life. So if you'd like to know more, send me a message. You can find me on yesgamas.com or on Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn. Also, my workshop is in January. More news on that soon, and I look forward to seeing you there if you'd like more information and get healthy. Thank you for being here.
You're on mute, Gertrude.
Fantastic. Famous last words for 2021. Good morning, Sessa. Wonderful to see you with us today.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Still asleep,
Still asleep?
but yeah, excited.
Oh, awesome. 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 So, Jessica, you have brought us a wealth of knowledge. Let's go a little bit and ask you a few questions about this system. This is something I have never heard about, and I'm sure our listeners are curious to know more. Take us through a step-by-step how the system works.
Oh, the system. Well, really, as when someone comes to see me, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have a conversation, and of course, to find what the problem is. And most of my clients have a diagnosis of some sort if they're not feeling well. And that's important also because I actually don't diagnose. I'm a coach. So if there's no diagnosis and there's a severe issue, of course, I would recommend to go and see a doctor or see a naturopath or a medical professional. And but once there is a diagnosis, but there's nothing we can do for you, or we don't know where it's coming from, or any of those, that's when we go and have a real good conversation. And I ask certain questions. And you know what? Very, very often, the client has the answer within. They just don't really want to admit it to themselves, or it's buried by all the stuff that goes on in their life. So that's where I then help and bring that and come back, and so it comes to the surface. And then once we have that answer, then we can go to work and resolve the issue, whatever that might be, whether that is nutrition, as in food or drink, whatever's going on, or something in their life, whether it's in a relationship or finance or work or life. It can be so much, right? That's causing internal stress, and then we find some step by step. We take little steps, because you may know that if you drastically change your life for something really big, it's so difficult to actually make that happen over time. We tend to drop the ball. Think of when so many women are very familiar with this, to go on a diet to lose weight, and they suddenly stop all this stuff. And after a week or maybe 2 weeks, it goes really well. And then they just drop the ball. They go to a party, and that's that. And so that's where I then come in, is to first create little new habits, but little ones, so that it's easier to do. And then I guide and help, so that I'm always available, that if they suddenly have the urge to go and have a whole bar of chocolate in one go, that they can call me and go, help, or text me. So that's how that works.
That's fantastic. And you're right. A lot of times when we are experiencing trauma, emotional issues, it has to manifest in some way in your body. And a lot of times we know exactly what that is without being told. So really being able to trust your intuition and tap into that is what's important here.
Yeah, the other thing that I didn't really talk about is breath work is very, very important, and breath work helps you relax, but it also, certain types of breath work helps the body release blocked energy in your body. So that's if you really don't know, whatever trauma there was, and sometimes it's also can be trauma from past. It's been shown, research has shown that trauma from the past 3 generations are actually stored in your cell. And that is something that you may not know, and we may not have to know about it, but if we can just clear that energy, and I do that through breath work. Other people do it in different ways, but that is phenomenal. And sometimes we actually become aware of what it was. And sometimes we don't, but it does get cleared. So it's very, very gentle, which is beautiful.
That's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Cesar, do you want to step in here? Any comments from what you've
Um,
heard from Jessica's presentation?
yeah, exactly. From what I
Mhm.
heard, I kind of came in the end. My apologies,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to add, just listening to you just then. Um, there's that saying that you are what you eat.
Hmm.
And I found it extremely well. It was informative how you were speaking about how you use breath work and helping to deal with trauma and other things. Um, I'm just beginning to examine that myself now due to traumas, and I also just listened to you say that sometimes these traumas can go generations back, and speaking personally, in my family, it kind of makes me think, oh, this is a way that I can help my family. Breath work. Obviously, better eating makes us better people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to thank you even just for the last comments that I did hear, because for me they actually struck a chord instantly. So yeah, thank you very much. Is it Jessica?
Mhm.
Yes, it's Jessica.
Yes. Wonderful. Thanks, Cesar. So I know that you are planning to run a workshop for the Her Story movement. Give us a name of the workshop, what people can expect.
Awaken the doctor within. I love
Okay.
that. And
Wow.
it's really and I'm going to go deeper into the 5 pillars of health, and also talk more about the cellular communication in our bodies and how it all works together. So giving lots and lots of tips on what we can do with those 5 pillars of health, as well as cellular health, and how we can boost that. And do some breath work as well. And I can highly recommend, if people are thinking about it. But I do actually have a little Discover Your Wellbeing score on my website that's free. And people can do that, which is just 18 questions, and you can find out from that where you're at when it comes to your well-being and health. So that's pretty cool. And
That's
when you've done
awesome.
that, yeah, I love that as well. And so then, yeah, maybe then come to the workshop and find out more. And there will be some Q&A as well, some interactive stuff. So I'm really excited about that to be sharing, and really dive more into depth on those 5 pillars of health and the cellular network.
Okay, so let's share your website. Let me know if I have it correct here. It's going to be scanning at the bottom of the screen. Is that the correct website, Jessica?
That is correct. There's one more W, but yes,
Oh, sorry.
www.
That's a typo. My fingers were moving too fast. Okay, let's try that again. There we go.
That's it.
Fantastic. So you can go onto this website and assess. It's an assessment,
Yeah.
and you can really see where you're at in terms of your health and wellness. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So do stick around. We're going to share the next video, and you can be part of our panel. The next presenter is coming to us all the way from Singapore, an amazing woman who did present at the last online summit. Angela Teet is an author. She is the mother of one who went through a very traumatic experience in her life. Wonderful to see you, Miss Ruth. Welcome, welcome. Now, Angela has written a book that is just inspirational. I have just finished reading it. I had the privilege of getting access to this book before she had put it out on the market. And she talks about losing her little daughter at the age of 2, going through a divorce. It's called The Road to Finishing Strong. So, Angela, it's an absolute honor for me to be able to share your story this morning. I know it's probably 2 o'clock in the morning in Singapore, but we will be seeing you later on in the summit. So we will take a look at her presentation and then we will do a Q&A session and give us some feedback. So bear with me while I cue that up. And we will see you in a few minutes. Okay, so Michelle Sutherland is the next speaker. She is from Scotland, I think based in Sydney, Australia.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Gertrude. It's amazing to be here and very grateful to be asked on, so thank you. My name is Michelle Sutherland. I am originally from Paisley in Scotland, which is just outside of Glasgow. But I find myself residing in beautiful Byron Bay, which is Bundalung country of the Orwarkle people. And I am 36 years old, and or young, however you look at it. And my story is, I'd probably start, I like to start for probably me the most pivotal moment, and I believe is a pivotal moment that sort of put me on a certain path. Was at 15 years old. I was obviously in Scotland in a very small town, you know, very much living that small town life of, you know, going to school and doing all the typical things that maybe you do in Scotland. I don't know if many people know what that would be like, but it was a real balance of, you know, a bit rough and ready versus being surrounded by love by your family. And you know, things were pretty basic. If I look at my life now, you know, I came from a very humble background, but absolutely showered in love by my family, which was amazing. So I remember my aunt was going through a particularly tough time in her life, and she discovered the power of self-development and the power of the mind. And when I was 15 years old, she handed me the book The Secret, which is by Rhonda Byrne, who's an Australian author. I didn't really know that at the time, but I read this book and I absolutely got it straight away. I think I was at that age where, you know, it's a bit of a pivotal age. You can go one way or the other, and especially in a town like the one I was in. And it was really amazing that I got this at such a young age. And what also happened in that year was my mum saved and saved and saved money so that she could take me to Australia to visit my aunt and uncle and cousin that had moved here like 40 odd years ago. And so we came to Sydney, and I stood at Sydney Harbour Bridge, and I was like in awe, like absolutely in awe. I had never been in sunshine like it. I'd never been surrounded by such beauty. Like I had never fathomed anything like what Sydney, you know, Sydney's impression on me at 15 years old was incredible. And there was this knowing, and in that moment, because I read the book The Secret, and I sort of had this, by reading that and believing that, I thought, well, anything is possible. So I read that, came to Sydney, and I turned around to my mum and I just said, Mum, this is my place. This is my place. I'm going to live here one day. And she was like, oh God, okay, great. So so I obviously went back to Scotland, stayed and you know, continued with my school, my university, and I ended up getting a job in London and following a very traditional career path, but always on my vision board, because again, The Secret spoke about having a vision board and having things on there for 10 years. Yeah, for 10 years, from 15 to like just before I turned 25, the only thing that was on there was Sydney and the beaches of Sydney in Australia. And that was it. That was my childhood dream. But I just kept following the path and doing the next thing and next thing. And, you know, I was in this traditional career with a global IT company in London. And again, I found myself at a point where I was like, I really need to take serious action to get to Australia. And so I started to apply for all these jobs, and eventually after 44 knockbacks, I got this job in Melbourne. And I thought, well, Melbourne's closer to Sydney than Melbourne, so I'll just go there. So anyway, I got to Australia through my sort of job, but at the same, just before that, I'd been offered this opportunity through my friends in Scotland, which was to become a business owner with a company called Arbonne, a social marketing company. And again, I was like, I don't know what this is, but if you're in Australia, which it was, I was like, there's some connection. So I'm going to do everything to learn and to be open to what this is, because if it's connected to Australia, then that's for me. And so I decided to do that. And it was in the middle of the global financial crisis, actually. That was a very pivotal and defining decision. And that definitely defined the next 11, 12 years of my life, looking back now. So I moved to Melbourne, was continuing with my career, but I had this other business that was teaching me so much, and definitely allowing me to learn how to lead, how to look after people, how to serve, how to do good in the world. And so I was learning that, but in the corporate world I was maybe seeing slightly different behaviors, so it was always this sort of contrast. But anyway, I very quickly grew passionate about people and serving people and helping people change. And so if I bring myself up to Melbourne and then Sydney, I eventually got to Sydney, and then a couple of years ago, because of that decision with Arbonne, I was able to fully leave my corporate job before I turned 30. So I was 29, and again, that was a sort of pivotal moment. And then I've sort of dedicated the last 6 years learning, being open to all types of entrepreneurship, tried startup, lots of different things, but where I've landed in the last few years has been so passionate about social entrepreneurship, becoming a B Corp certified company and helping people to do that, because I really believe that we as humans need to be better and look after ourselves more. And that's one aspect, but in order to be for the greater good, we need to look after ourselves. But how do we look after our communities and our planet? And I really truly believe that being in service to others through social entrepreneurship and B Corp, and to look after community as well as the planet, is actually the way. So that's a sort of very quick, I don't know if that was quick, but that's where I've got to, and that's where I'm at the moment. And I'm feeling truly blessed and excited that I've been given this opportunity to speak and share that story.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds to me like you know how to follow the breadcrumbs. A lot of people in life don't see the signs.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you were literally led back to Australia. When the opportunities popped up, you were aware of it. Now, for people who haven't watched The Secret movie or read the book, let's talk a little bit about the law of attraction.
Yes.
What it is and what it has done in your life.
Yeah. So law of attraction is basically when thoughts are very powerful, and thoughts lead to our reality. And that's what I learned through The Secret. And so I started to learn that concept. If I can think positively about something, or I can actually just have a clear vision in mind of what I actually want to create in the world and what I truly want, then once you say that repeatedly, or write that down, or see it, and stay in tune with that vision and let go of the stories or the doubt or the words that potentially prevent that from happening. And that's an art in itself. But if you can constantly and consistently always come back to what you actually want, what happens is there's something in the back of your brain called, or the back of your head called, the reticular activator, and it actually starts to attract those things and situations and people and opportunities and resources into your life that matches what it is you actually want. So that's the power of the law of attraction, is that you have to, one, know what it is you truly want, let go of all those negative stories, beliefs, patterns that maybe will come in, and actually stay focused on that. And the universe, or higher power, or God, or whatever you want to call it, will deliver. That's the law. And because I found out about that at 15, it became ingrained in me. So and I just ended up on this path of always putting out there what I wanted, and then it might not have been exactly what I thought it was going to be, but that wasn't my job. My job was to, like you say, follow the breadcrumbs and just say, well, if Arbonne's a connection to Australia, I'm going to do it because that's what I want. Like, I don't need to work out the how.
Yes.
And I think that's what we get caught up in, is people get caught up in the control and the how and exactly where they think it should be. But all you need to focus on is like
The
where you
end
want
picture.
to go. The end picture, yeah.
I'm fascinated because I live and breathe. I'm a walking billboard of The Secret.
Yes.
I'm one of those people who everybody says, gosh, you were born under a lucky star.
Yeah.
But after I watched the DVD and read the book, I realized that I was co-creating what was happening in my life. I was responsible for it in just the way that I live and my attitude to it all. But I also found that the other little missing piece is remembering the emotion around what you want. The emotion is really an amplifier.
Yeah.
So just having a vision board with you going to Paris might not quite do it. It's almost like you have to see yourself standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, enjoying that moment before you get there.
Yeah, definitely. And I've got a perfect example of that, because the first time when I was 15, and I can actually go back there right now. The feeling of standing at the Harbour Bridge with the sunshine in my face, which was very unusual because we didn't get that a lot in Scotland. And I was just like mesmerized. And what happened was that happened at 15, but then I came back to visit a couple of years later. I think I was like 21, 22 before I started my career, on holiday for a bit longer. And I was in that exact same position at Harbour Bridge with the sun in my face, thinking, I will be back. Like, it's going to happen. Like, I just know it. And I just kept, like you said, feeling that, just the joy of being there was like incredible. It was like my whole body was just like, yeah. And I think some people have those feelings with people or places or situations, and it's like, you know, just grasping that. And sometimes you might not be able to go to that place, but you know, our minds are incredible. You can really visualize in a lot of powerful ways.
And the other thing that I've learned to do is to script the future. I write things down. They say that, you know, if you keep an idea in your head, that's the only place it stays. So our thoughts are a vibration. And the minute you put it down on a piece of paper, it's out of your head. It's now in physical reality.
Yes.
So like an architect can't build a house without you describing what the house looks like. You draw a sketch, and then there it is in a three-dimensional form.
Yeah.
But that was an idea in somebody's head right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm always excited when I meet someone who understands these principles.
Yeah, it's I think so. When did you find out about it? Was it a young age, or was it?
Oh, no. This is probably 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, okay. So
I was aware of it from childhood. Like I have lived a charmed life is the only way I can describe my life. I can give you situation after situation, circumstances, places I found myself, from where I'm from, the small village I was born with no electricity, no running water. I couldn't have imagined myself out of that situation if it hadn't been for what's between my ears.
Yeah.
And so I would see myself studying in London. And the next thing, I found an opportunity to go and study in London. I wanted to be an actress. The next thing, I'm acting in a musical in Norway and touring the whole of Europe. So I was aware of it, but I wasn't aware that I was co-creating what was happening to me.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, is the awareness.
Yes.
Is that some people don't have the awareness. So you can actually be co-creating incredible things, or you can be co-creating maybe not awful things, but things that maybe aren't serving you. And I think it's once you've got the awareness, you can start to be more intentional. And I think that's what people can start to do now, is just be a bit more aware and intentional, and also accept the way it comes, because sometimes we think, oh, well, that's not exactly the way I imagined. It's like, let it go, be grateful for what's coming, because that is for your highest good. You know, you just need to be you know, put it out there and put the attention, but it's accepting all the twists and turns and roundabouts and all the different, like you said, pieces of the puzzle and the breadcrumbs,
Yes.
to eventually get there, because that's the exciting part. You're like, okay, what's next? And even in the moment you're like, oh God, just get me there. It's so fast. Every single time you wish you were there, you're actually like, once you get there, you're like, oh my God, that was so much fun. Like,
Yeah, so you have to enjoy the ride on the way there. You're right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So right. So leave us with some parting thoughts of nuggets of wisdom for somebody out there who's trying to manifest something, trying to create a different life. Give us 3 pieces of advice.
3 pieces of advice. I would say, what's coming up? I would say number 1, I've always been a big believer in this, but is dream bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, because we have one life right here, you know, you might have multiple lives, but right now in this present moment, you have this opportunity to do and be and achieve and, you know, serve in such an incredible place that it requires you to really dig deep into your heart, but also dream really big. And I think that's what served me, is I've never sort of like focused on small things. I've always gone big, and in the process, the things that come are just insane. So I'm really a big believer in putting the audacious, tenacious dreams out there, because it's incredible when things are so big. I remember this once when I was first started my Arbonne business, was because I was like, I just want to help as many people as possible. And a mentor said to me, Michelle, your dream needs to be so big that other people's dreams can fit into it.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And that was good advice.
Yeah, like, so me from like Scotland to living and working in Sydney, Australia was so huge and so like far removed from what was probably the norm for someone like me, and I'm sure you can relate to that as well. It was just so, and even with this business now, I'm just like, I'm going to change the education system. I'm going to help change businesses become better and fundamentally change the mindset they've had for centuries, you know. And so you've got to, because, and when people are bought into that, like all these people come on board because it excites them that it's so big. And there's a lot of work to do, of course, but yeah, so I'd say number 1 is just dream bigger and bigger and bigger. I think we play down things, and we sometimes go a bit small, and we just think, oh, I'll just do this. But I encourage everyone to really dig into your heart and think, what is the biggest, grandest thing I could do here on this planet at this time? Because it needs you, you know, like the people of this planet and humanity and the planet need you to do that. So yes, that would be my first one. My second one, what would be my other piece of advice, is really return to you and your knowing and your values and what makes up you. And I think I've really witnessed this in myself over the last 2 years in particular, is that we all fundamentally know what we need to do, who we are, and what being of love and service is. However, also living in this world with social media and other people and, you know, competition and comparison and all these things, we get lost in like, what actually, who are we and what are we here to do? And I would sort of say, you know, people will come to me for the answers, but actually, you know, the answers. But what's happened is we've not been still enough to listen to ourselves.
We are born with all the answers. That is a beautiful, beautiful reminder.
Yeah. So I would definitely say that we're born with it. We're born ready. I like to say that we're born ready, and we know, but it's creating that stillness. And there's lots of tools, techniques, meditation, breath work, all those things out there to get your nature, brings us back to that place. But I would definitely say create stillness in your life to achieve greatness. That's what I'm all about. And then lastly, I would say what's coming through is just never, ever, ever, ever give up. Like that has been, like had this reflection the other day about myself. Like I was never the smartest person in school. I was never technically good at anything physically, or when it came to like academic stuff, and even in work, I really had to train my brain and be open enough to learn things. But I've never given up in myself and the capability that I have. And I really always, every time I'm uncomfortable with something, or I feel that resistance, or I feel that I don't feel I'm good enough, or all of that, I just do it anyway. I just continue to show up. And people look at me and they're like, you're super cool, you're super fun, and you're super intelligent. I'm like, I'm actually not. I'm just willing to show up and be open to learn something new and be curious. And so I would say never ever give up on yourself, to learn, to unlearn, relearn, and learn again. And I have definitely done that through multiple careers, multiple situations and jobs, and people. I think it's just about being open, curious, and never ever giving up on yourself. And when you do have these big dreams and you do tune into yourself and you go, oh my God, this is scary, then don't ever ever give up. There will be massive amount of obstacles. There'll be massive amount of people that will say, no, I don't believe in you, and that's blah blah blah. There's going to be so many things that come in.
Yes.
But you have to stay true to you and decide. I think is the decision to never ever give up and commit to infinite change. You're going to be fine. And that's a really powerful place to be.
Michelle, thank you so much for coming online today and gracing us with your knowledge, with your presence. Always excites me when I meet somebody who's passionate about the law of attraction. It is a real thing, and we can create what we want in our lives if we just dream big enough. So thank you so much for this interview. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. I will be back again tomorrow with yet another amazing guest. Have a fantastic day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Let's see. We have yet another member to our panel. Oh, where is she gone? I thought I saw
Janice.
Denise was with us a few minutes ago. Let me send her a message on Facebook. She did say she would join the panel. Let's see. Where is she? Please come back. So let's analyze the last presenter and her presentation. What was fascinating for me when I met Michelle is the whole law of attraction stuff. When I first watched the movie The Secret, I started experimenting and trying to see if this stuff really works. I was aware that I have an ability to create things really fast when I'm focused. And so listening to her speak really helped me. Oh, there she is. Welcome, 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 Denise. Wonderful to see you. Awesome to see you there. So we were just going around the room and taking apart the last presenter's presentation. And I was just saying how she fascinated me with all of this law of attraction stuff, because I'm so much into believing that we do attract into our lives through the vibration we give out into the world. So let's just go around the room and give her some feedback. Michelle couldn't be with us today, but I'm pretty sure she would love to hear your take and your ideas from what she shared. We'll start with you, Ruth.
Thank you, Gertrude. And hello, ladies. Good to be here in person instead of behind the scenes. She said something very deep for me, because I think Jessica also mentioned it when she was doing her presentation. I'm actually looking forward to her workshop, because it says awaken the doctor within you. And Michelle said that we are born with the answers, that we know what to do. in the different situations. And yet, I think because of maybe fear, experiences, then everything just comes, we push it back, and then we start seeking for the things that we already know. So for me, that's a very great reminder. And I'm really looking forward to Jessica's workshop as well, because she talks about, she doesn't diagnose, she asks you question, and then you give her the answers. You literally diagnose yourself as she takes you through the different questions. So that's also was good. So Michelle, thank you so much, Michelle, for that presentation.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ruth. Jessica, just again, introduce yourself. Tell people where you are, because people kind of pick up on these videos at different points.
Yeah, okay. So I'm in Australia. I'm in Noosa on the Sunshine Coast. And so I help women take their life back when they're not feeling well, don't have energy, or have a condition where they've been told, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Just take some pills and live with it for the rest of your life. So, and I look at health holistically. So it's nutrition as well as how stress or trauma is affecting your life, even if you don't know it. And that's what Ruth was just referring to, how I ask questions and then the answer comes from within. And if not, I can sort of steer towards it, so that it comes out. And so I really loved how Michelle touched on that. What I also really, really love, I'm all about personal development as well, and personal growth. And it's so important for us to do that and just get a richer life that way, because of all the stuff that's being put into us when we're little that may not necessarily serve us, and to then learn more about who we really are and how we can grow. And so she was talking about, you have your dream, and sometimes people are so just with the dream that they miss all these beautiful things that are happening along the way, and to acknowledge that and then following the breadcrumbs, he said. And I just love that, so that you're grateful for, and it may not actually get you totally, or you're not there, or you think you're not getting there because it seems like you're going another way. But if you're grateful for what is happening and seeing all the good bits, then you'll get there.
Yes.
So yeah, I just love that.
It's about the journey, not the destination, right?
That's right, exactly. Because then, you are enjoying, and that's I just joyful living. That's what it's at, right? So if you are grateful and you find all the beautiful moments, and that's the journey that gets you wherever it is that you want to go. And if you end up going somewhere else and it's beautiful, then that's wonderful, right?
That's so true. So true. Oh, wonderful. Denise, what was your take on that presentation?
Well,
Wonderful to see you. Tell everybody where you are first.
I'm Janice, and right now I'm in Oklahoma. I've been here for like maybe 6 months, but migrated from California. And I am the CEO and founder of You Win Working With Me. And I have a two-pronged approach, actually, because I'm a relationship recycle coach, and I'm an engagement and retention specialist for working with healthcare providers, because I wanted to approach it from two aspects. So as a relationship recycle coach, I work with women after they leave the relationship, because they generally return 7 times before they leave for good. And from that perspective, I help them to learn to appreciate themselves and to instill certain qualities in themselves about setting boundaries, that kind of thing. And then most of all is to work on the security, because a lot of times when women leave, they feel like it's over, and it's really just begun. The fight has just begun. And so I work with them around that, and around engagement. and retention is a lot of women don't come for health care because they don't like the way they're being treated. They're being discounted. It's happened to me. You don't know what you're talking about. It might be in your head. You know, they give you all these signs, and that's what stops women from coming to get care. And you don't want that to happen. So I do those particular things. Just to get a little background, I've worked in nonprofit agencies for over 35 years. So I know the line staff position, I know the administrative position, and I also know the client perspective. And when I speak of recycle, I think we already have what we need. We just need somebody to guide us through the process.
Yeah.
And that's where I came up with the name of Relationship Recycle Coach. Because just
I
like
love that.
you don't want, okay, you throw it in a receptacle, it's taken to the recycle center, and it's processed, and it comes back new. That's what I work with my clients on, them coming back new and ready to live the life on their terms. That's a little longer than what I expected. The whole aspect. And because I've worked in a nonprofit for so many years, I know women, they don't want to come to treatment because of that. So I want to, well, you win. We want to reduce those numbers or eliminate the providers in the way they approach their patients. So that's it.
Awesome. We're going to be hearing from you next when you share your story. Necessa, give us some feedback on what you thought of that, that presenter.
What I picked up, because I came in late, is to dream big. And because I think for me, if I had ever lost my dream, I probably wouldn't have accomplished as much as I have. And I probably wouldn't have worked on myself as hard as I have. So that's what I picked up. The dreams, never let the dreams die. Just keep coming back.
Nice.
I'm sorry,
Thank
I
you
missed
so much.
I missed.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go on to you, Tessa. What was your take?
Well, never having read The Secret, still learning about personal development. I was actually a bit overwhelmed in parts, but like all of you ladies mentioned the dream. I guess joining HerStory, for me personally, empowering other women, helping others, you know, the sharing of stories. I appeared on the 28th of November. Thank you to my lovely friend Gertrude. But, oh, I can't tell you. It's like I've had an epiphany. And this is part of my dream. You know, I've had a very, colourful life. And during the colourful life, you know, there were lots of ups and downs, but, you know, I continued my journey, some of it with Gertrude. And, you know, I had this dream then about becoming a director like Peter Jackson and, yes, you know, producing films and the like. That dream has not died. Thank you to our lovely speaker, because... And actually, thank you to all the speakers, because it just, you know, everyone has something that they share. And, you know, I find myself identifying so much with every talk that I listen to, everything and I'm just so happy to be a proud and a part of this. But yes, I'd like to thank you so much for your wonderful talk. And yes, let's continue with the dream.
I love that. Yeah, Necessa and I met while we were in film school a few years ago, and we were both big dreamers, and we are still holding on to those dreams. It's not done yet. So I'm really glad that you're bringing this up, Cessa, because my grandmother used to say that when a baby is born, they're born with their fingers clutched. And we come into this world holding our dreams. And some people go to their graves like this, holding on to the dreams. So it's about unleashing those hands and bringing those gifts to the world. So I know you and I, our work is not done yet. We are not finished, baby. We're not finished.
No.
There's more to come. So watch this space, ladies. Watch this space. So we will go on to our next speaker, the beautiful Janice Cummings. Thank you so much for just always being there, making yourself available. Whenever I say, Janice, I need a speaker, you're like, yep, I'm there. She is a relationship recycle coach. You win Working with Me is the name of her business, and her specialty is as a life coach. She works on self-esteem, compassion, fatigue, trauma, and domestic violence.
Wow.
Thank you so much for being with us. We will exit the stage and give the opportunity to you now to give us your presentation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Gertrude.
Wait until we've all gone first.
All right. Right. Hi. I'm Janice Cummings. And Gertrude's already introduced me, and I am just so happy to be here on the stage to talk about my story. Well, I guess I'll start off. I grew up in Oklahoma, and around the age of 6, my life was really, really okay. I didn't see any dark pieces. I didn't feel any kind of way. But after the age of 6, around the age of 11, I started thinking something's wrong. Something's wrong here. At the age of 11 or 12, you kind of think you know a little bit more. And so one day I went to my mother because I was in an abusive environment. My stepfather was very abusive towards my mother. Name calling, fighting, physical violence, all of that. Police come into the house all the time. So around the age of 11 or 12, I got the nerve up to ask my mother, why are you with this guy? He disrespects you. He goes out on you. He hangs out with other women. He doesn't give you any money. He talks down to you. And so she said, nobody else is going to want me because I have so many kids. There were like 14 in our family, and I am the oldest girl, so I had a lot of responsibility. So she told me that nobody else would want her. I said, well, he wouldn't get any money. That, even as a young girl, I thought I knew anyway. I didn't really know that much because I still have that, I'm still young. But I say he wouldn't have any money. So why are you even worried about it? But as I was saying that, I noticed her expressions, how she was being beat down. It felt like what I was saying to her, it was so true. It was beating her down. And from that perspective, I said to myself, you really can't tell people the truth because when you tell them the truth, it hurts. That was the bad assumption because that's not the way it was supposed to be. So after that, of course, she kept going. She kept being in the relationship and being in the relationship. And as a young child, when you're going through that adversity, you're traumatized. You're totally traumatized. So how did it affect me physically? I had stomach aches all the time. I always had stomach aches. And every Friday, they would start on Friday and they would end on Sunday because that was the process. He would go out on Friday and he wouldn't come back until Sunday night, and then the fighting would begin. So my mother took me to the doctor and they never could find anything physically wrong with me. But it was the stress of being in that environment. Of course, I didn't know it at the time, but I also started looking at other people, mostly TV. And I would say, God, they don't treat their women like that. Why is my mom being treated like that? So as luck would have it, one day I'm reading an article in the newspaper because I'm thinking something's wrong with me. What's wrong with me? I'm so unhappy. It's just hard when you're a kid and you have to live under those kind of situations. So I was reading an article, and dear Abby, she was a columnist that used to help people with their problems in the newspaper. And they were talking about self-esteem. And I took the test and I failed every question, everything. And so I said, well, that's what's wrong with me. I don't love myself. I don't have any self-esteem. So that's when I started working on my self-esteem, and I started doing better. I started stepping out. I started singing. I started being in plays. I started being more active. But that trauma was still in me. I was still moving forward, but I was still depressed. I was still depressed. I couldn't shake that depression. So then I went to college, and when I went to college, and I'm going to cut it short a little bit, but I went to college and I still had this bag that I'm dragging around of all the incidents that happened to me. The name calling, because I got called names too. And not having the ability to digest all that as a child, that's very, very hard. So you wind up parenting yourself, and you don't parent yourself right because you can't. You're a kid. So after, of course, that didn't end it. So I went through relationships, and I was always picking people that didn't feel the same way about me, and they were always unavailable. I didn't know any better. I still didn't catch it because I assume it wasn't time. But there did come a time, because after working in community services for a while, I got put in a battered woman's shelter. God sent me to a battered woman's shelter. Believe it or not, I didn't remember anything about my childhood. I had blocked it all out because I couldn't carry it around, I guess, every day. And that was my way of dealing with it. So at the battered woman's shelter, I got sick. Every time I would go in that office and stick that key in there, I would get a headache, an instant headache. And believe it or not, the first week on the job, I had to take off sick. But still not knowing what it is until I got really sick at work. I was working with a client, and everything just started coming at me. Because one thing I know about life, you can put things under the carpet for so long, and then the carpet is full. There's nowhere it can go. So it has to come out. So I got sick. Immediately I started having chest pain, because I'm the kind of person that when I'm under stress, my body responds. It responds. And it responds, and to the point where I suffer anxiety, depression, and then I isolate. I went straight to the doctor, and they took me out on distress. They took me out on stress leave, because I was working as a program coordinator at the battered women's shelter. I was on the crisis line all the time, listening to problems. I was inside the facility working with battered women. It was too much. It was overwhelmed. So then I got sick. So what happens when you get sick? You got to find out what's wrong with you. You got to. There's no way around it. So I went to therapy, and I was in therapy for a year. And every day I would go religiously, and I'd come out with tissues, wet from crying, because as a child, you think it's your fault. Maybe you did something wrong. Maybe you could have been a better kid. Maybe you could have done something. Going through therapy, I realized and remembered. First, I had to remember, because remember now, I forgot it. I thought I did. I repressed it is what I did. And for a whole year, I went to therapy. And the problems didn't stop because I was in therapy. When you're on your journey, there are going to be roadblocks all the way, all the way. It's not going to be easy when you start, because what's going to happen, you're going to go through some distractions that are going to try to take you off your path. And in this case, my brother was murdered. He was murdered during the time that I was going to the therapy, which really worked out really well for me, because I needed to be connected with a professional at that time to help me through the process. So to make a long story short, that's how I started on the path. I started going to therapy. I started reading books. I started going to classes and things to understand more about trauma. Now, one thing that I must say during that process, I completed my bachelor's degree. I got my master's degree. I got another master's in nonprofit leadership, because I was searching for validation. Am I okay? But that never did it either. Not until I went to therapy and I started to work on myself. That was my calling. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to work with battered women. I figured to myself, I had enough of battered women. I'm done. Well, that's not how God wanted it. And as it would happen, I wind up opening You Win Working With Me. But my counseling experience came in good, because I've worked with mental health. I've worked in the jail with pregnant women. I've worked with women all my career. And I'm a woman. So I throw that in the mix. And all of that has contributed to me doing what I'm doing today. Now, before I got therapy, I was isolated. I put myself down all the time. It's like I never could do nothing good enough. I didn't stand up for myself. I set no boundaries with people. I was a people pleaser. All of those things is what came out of me going through that adversity as a child and not knowing what was wrong with me. Through therapy, through my work, and through my calling, which is working with women. But I do it from the perspective of the child, because when the mother gets well, the child will get well, and the family will get well. So that's a kind of a different way of getting to the root of the problem, basically. And so now I am the founder and director of You Win Working With Me. And again, that's my journey, basically. That's where I came from. But now it's different. I can stand up, I can say what I want, I can mean what I say. I'm assertive. I don't let people say anything to me, and I carry myself with pride and dignity. But it's work. That's the key. You've got to work at it. It doesn't come free. Nothing's free anyway. But if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen. And there's lots of resources out there for people. And that's what I do. I provide the resources. I provide the knowledge that I've gained to women and to anyone that I feel that it would benefit the family, because I'm really strong on the family structure and kids not having to go through what I did. So that's basically where I'm at this point. And if there's any questions or anybody need any clarification, feel free to ask.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to reconnect with you, Janice. What's incredible about your story is you were on a quest to try and fill a void.
Yes, yes.
Everything you did, there was this void within you until you went in and had to address it. You would have been on that quest, probably got a few PhDs while you were at it as well. The real PhD was the PhD of life, right?
Yes, that's the best degree right there.
So if there was a woman who is listening today, the story of your mom
Mhm.
A lot of times when you're in the middle of all of this stuff, you can't see the wood from the trees.
Mhm.
Your self-esteem is gone. You can't even see a future without the person who's abusing you. If there was a woman who's listening to us today who is thinking, do I leave? Do I stay? What do I do next? What 3 nuggets of wisdom could you give her?
First, I would tell her to start to love herself. Because you can't make a move until you start loving yourself and still you start remembering the things or drawing up the things that you love about yourself. Like I knew I loved my personality. I knew people like me. So those were the qualities that held me together. So loving yourself, remembering the things about yourself you love. Number 2 would be take care of your mental health. Do not take that lightly. Do not be around people that don't respect you, that don't give you the respect that you deserve. And take care of your physical health, because your mental health is a reflection of how you're going to take care of your physical health. And the third nugget is to live life on your terms. Don't let people dictate how you're going to live your life. That includes family, because that's my challenge right now. Family, you can love them, but you don't have to be a clone for how they want you to be. So those are the 3 nuggets. Live life on your own terms. And when you do that, you got to get away, because you need the time to think. You can't think when you're in the middle of the crisis or you're in the middle of the storm. Love being by yourself. Love your company. I like being with myself. So those are the 3 that I would recommend to a woman. But I also recommend that if it's an emergency situation and you're fear for your life, go immediately. But if you're not really ready and you don't have things in place, put them in place.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation.
So you actually need a plan. You need an exit strategy, because sometimes people rush and then you find yourself in a homeless shelter or on the street. Yeah.
And a homeless shelter, if you're not used to it, I've worked in it, I've supervised it. It's kind of rough, because you got rules and regulations and your kids are not used to it. So a lot of people come to the shelter and they think they can bring their life into the shelter. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, so I like people to know that there's work in there too.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful insights. Miss Ruth, what's your feedback for the beautiful Janice today?
Janice, it's always so good to see you and to hear from you. Thank you so much. And you say that when your approach when you deal with your clients is you deal with them from a kid's perspective, like we go back into my childhood.
Well, no, I start where they are, basically, because I'm on the relationship, because it's the relationship, in my opinion, that motivates them to want to do things. So I spend time on building that relationship first. But we don't go back into the childhood. We start where you are, but we have to touch a little bit on it so you're able to see where it came from and whether you want to continue like that.
Okay. All right. So, and then one of the things that I wanted to, I know you've healed the relationship with your dad and your mom, and so when it comes to you now attracting the right kind of man, how has that been?
Well, actually, I haven't really been focusing on it too much, because the last relationship I was in, it wasn't what I wanted, and I got out quicker. Because one thing about learning about things, you move a lot faster. You don't wait as much. So that was a good thing. But I actually haven't been focusing on it because there's no, with the COVID, it's kind of hard. And then if you do things online, you go through a lot of challenges around that too. You'll be ghosted or somebody's fake. So sometimes you just say, hey, let me take a break. So I haven't really started on that yet.
Okay. No, no, it's so good. It's good to know that if relationships can be healed, and I mean, we can change them. Again, I think coming back to the law of attraction, as
Yeah.
Michelle and Gertrude were saying, we it's what we put out that comes back to us. But thank you so much for such a great presentation as always.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Jessica, give us some feedback.
Oh God, that was so moving, your story, and really felt a lot of that. And but to see even and hear your voice as you progress through your story, and then you do your master's degree, and then and this is all phenomenal, and you're learning and learning, and then you realize actually it's still you within that needs to come to terms with it all, and just and here you are doing what you're doing. I absolutely, yeah, what an inspiring journey, and how you've really taken it all on, and come out of it helping other women. And I actually have a question. You sort of touched upon what Gertrude asked earlier, those 3 nuggets, but it's so a week ago, actually, I was every Sunday afternoon, there's live music by the river here, and so for free, where people get together. And there was a lady, a young woman who I've seen there before with a little girl, maybe aged 3, and we got talking, and she got really upset. And so she was telling me that she was in a very abusive relationship with the father of the child, and she would like to get out, and she doesn't know how to get out. And of course, I just listened, and I didn't say too much because there was a lot of music on it. It wasn't the right time, but she got very tearful, and she said, "The girl loves her dad. They have such a good time together, so I feel I can't leave. But it's a very abusive relationship, and her self-esteem is way down below 0." And it's like, yeah, where do you start with somebody like that? And I'd just love to say, here, talk to Janice.
Well, I think probably the best thing is just to encourage her around that she's valuable, that you have value, and maybe encourage her to start maybe going online, being in some support groups, because it's a process. Because if they're not ready, sometimes it's more damaging for them to leave.
Thank you. And I suppose I was very concerned with the child, because of course, if the child's loving her dad, but the child is also observing the abusive relationship, then if the child stays in that situation longer, that must be very, very conflicting.
It's going to be hard for the child. But a lot of women stay because of the children, but in a way, they tend to sacrifice themselves. So they have to get to the point where I love the relationship, but that relationship is not happening for me. They can continue the relationship, but the thing about it, sometimes a man uses the child as a weapon. So, she needs to be guided, is what I'm saying. And because if she's not, she's going to be pulled back in, and then it's going to be, it turns out worse sometimes. So yeah, showing her you are valuable. You got so much to offer, because I tell you one thing, there is value in the journey. You may not see it, but you will later. So yeah, just offer her the support, and maybe some numbers. Right now you got to do everything online, so she can get in the ICU support group, a domestic violence support group, so to begin opening her eyes. Okay,
that's great. Thank you. Amazing.
You're welcome. And the kids,
and sometimes the children are better off with 2 happy parents apart than 2 miserable parents together.
They are, and the kids know. They think, everybody think, oh, I'm hiding. No, you're not.
Oh, they know.
Your energy. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. No.
I hope that answered your question, dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Cesar, any feedback, any questions, comments?
Well, I actually had heaps to say, but as I waited for each person to speak, one thought after another kind of disappeared. But I do say, Janice, thank you so much for your korero, your talk. You're kind of, I guess, what I want to be like. I'm still journeying the journey. I do have one question that kind of struck me in amongst everything, all the other gems that you spoke about. How would you talk to a person who you talked about the reaching helping someone through is it the child? I can't remember exactly because it's got confused in my head now. But how would you speak to a woman or a person who didn't even know their mother?
Didn't even know their mother?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I guess maybe I would probably talk about that loss for her. That's probably what I would start off. How did that feel for you? You know, what did you experience as a result of that? That's probably how I would start off. Because what I'm finding out with working with women, a lot of times, they're not going to come out straight with everything. It's going to take some time because they can't trust us. They don't know us. You know, and then as a child, I learned to not trust. And I still got to work on that because I still got that. Because you're going to have some residual effects. Like for me, loud noises. I can't stand people who holler and scream and stuff like that. I look at it like it's violent, like it's going to turn violent. So, you know, I still got some triggers. It's just a process, you know. So yeah, I would probably talk about how did that feel for you, and what did you think you missed as a result of not having your mother, and maybe you need to start trying to mother yourself. What you missed, try to give it to yourself, and maybe start working her in that direction, because that's a big loss. That's a huge loss for her. Yeah. That's the way I would play it, because again, I move slow. I don't just bombard people because they tend to run, and I don't. Okay, I don't want them to run because I might not never see them again. So I go slow, and sometimes they just sit up and watch me and say, "She's kind of weird," because I don't make them do nothing. You know, I do that deliberately because I want them to feel my energy and my sincerity, because I do really care and I do want the best for you.
Wow. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that Cesar's question, our mothers play a very big role in who we are as women.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it would have been like for me not to have my mom. She was everything. Mm-hmm. She was everything that I hinged all of my ideas, my self-worth, what it is to be a woman, and not to grow up with that.
That's hard. Mm-hmm. That's hard. Yeah. So
we are our children's role models as well. Our daughters will emulate from us what we are doing.
Yeah, and all other girls too, because girls, you know, I find that because I don't say nothing, they just looking at me trying to figure me out, you know, which I like. That's not a problem, you know. So, and during the process, they say, "Oh, she okay? She's not a problem. She's not a threat. She's not," you know. Then they start to open up, but it's just like peeling an onion. It takes a minute.
Okay. It does take a while.
It does. It does.
Wow.
I hope that answered your question, because I can go off and come back and all that. But
if I could reach through the camera right now, I would really, really love a hug from you.
Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you ladies. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, now our next speaker is going to come to us all the way from Canada. Amazing woman. I won't even pretend to know how to pronounce Vanessa's surname because she has a very interesting Inuit surname. I can't even pronounce it. But she is an amazing artist. She is a jewelry maker. She works with fur and makes the most exquisite earrings and necklaces, working with Native American communities. Her husband is Native American. So I'm going to share her video. Like I said, another fascinating fabric or thread in this beautiful tapestry that we're weaving with all these stories. So here we go. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for contributing to our movement.
Sure thing. So my name is Vanessa Ayer's daughter. I live in Whitehorse, Yukon, which is part of Canada. We neighbor Alaska. And I'm 44 years old. I am divorced and I'm married now to a wonderful man who is the main reason why my business is the way that it is. So in my business, I am a textile artist and jewelry designer. I specialize in using materials that are sourced locally, naturally colored, and I make everything by hand. I have a physical store in downtown Whitehorse, Yukon. And of course, like most folks, I definitely have an online store as well. And COVID has challenged me to really accelerate some of my bigger plans for the business. And I'm reaching a bigger audience because if not now, then when? So I've had to get really excited about things, even if I'm nervous about them, and really challenge myself to try and do the things that I'm not sure will work and just go find out for sure if they will or not.
Wow. What a fascinating career and a fascinating opportunity you have right now. You're right. COVID is forcing every entrepreneur under the sun to be creative, to find different ways of doing things. So let's talk a little bit about the product and what it is that you make.
Sure thing. So in my store, like I say, I'm a textile artist and a jewelry designer. So the store has almost like two main product lines. So the textile work, it's hand spun, hand woven yarns, tapestries, and things that can be made with wool. And then the other product that gets the most attention is the jewelry collection that's made with indigenous sourced wild Yukon fur. And it's harvested on the land. It's all wild. It's, you know, and Canada's fur trade is controlled by some really high standards of practice. The traps are humane. There's, you know, the stories that exist out there about, you know, the blood and gore and the misinformation is highly inaccurate. What we do, you know, by working with indigenous trappers, there's an extra layer of care and attention to the practice in addition to what the government insists that we do. There's tradition and there's prayer and there's ceremony and there's thoughtfulness and humility and gratitude. It's not just a job. It's much, much richer than that. And so for me, it's a privilege to get to do that work. One of the most important things I think that my husband, who is Tlingit and he's our main trapper, one of the things that he's taught me is that when you're wearing fur, you are forever in relationship with that animal. So for us to harvest those furs in a good way is important so that when the wearer has those pieces in their life and on their bodies, they have a positive relationship with that animal. And it's the belief that these animals give themselves. And so when we regard them as a gift, it really changes our attitude about what we're working with and how we treat those things and how we care for them.
Wow. There's a lot of misunderstanding and misconceptions about the fur industry, and especially indigenous communities all over the world. You know, living here in New Zealand, I'm exposed to the Maori communities, the Aboriginal communities in Australia, and we're all kind of sharing a common history of colonialism and the impact that that has done to communities worldwide. So in your work in decolonizing what has happened, give us a few examples of the stories you come up against, the issues that you're addressing right now.
I think with the thing that makes our business so different from every other fur business that I know of existing in Canada, that's operating on a bigger commercial scale beyond just like the Indigenous handcrafters and the individual makers, what we've deliberately done differently in our business is we aren't buying the furs from the auction houses. The auction house, while it's a traditional system that's existed in Canada as a means for fur harvesters to get their furs to market, it's existed for a really long time. It also serves to oppress a lot of the trappers. And when you have a trapper, who's Indigenous, they're not doing it as, to make a bunch of money. They're doing it to stay connected to the land and to honor these traditional teachings and a practice that was carried out by generations before them to, make sure that that knowledge isn't lost. Then for me to be able to work with those trappers and buy fur directly from them, it takes them out of this really dysfunctional supply chain that puts the power typically with all industries in the hand of the final user. Agriculture is the same way. And so for me to be able to provide a way for harvesters to sell their fur directly to me, I'm not paying the lowest price. I'm not negotiating to pay them less. I'm actually working with them to pay them more so that their fur practice is not just sustainable, but also profitable. And profit is sort of a dirty word in so many industries, especially when it's something that's so rich in culture and there's a lot of emotional attachment to it. It's as though we are supposed to be martyrs and give up everything just for the preservation of the practice. But I think it's actually possible, and we're proving that it is, for something that is that important to also be something that folks can make money at. And so I'll give you an example. When a fur harvester is sending their furs out to the auction house, it's on a consignment basis. So they sign their furs out, off they go, and it's bundled up together and it's bid upon. And if the furs don't go for a price that the trapper is happy with, he's not in a position to decline the offer. So they've given up their power. And for an Indigenous trapper, that I think the implications of that are far, far greater than for the non-Indigenous trapper. And so say for example, a lynx pelt. There was a time where lynx pelts were selling at auction for $25 a skin. And they're not tanned or anything. That all happens later on in the process. I actually timed it out. When I go out with my husband, and so the two of us go together, and we happen to have a very accessible trap line. It's easy for us to get there. We drive and we take snowmobiles and that sort of thing. And I timed, if we were to leave from our front door, run all the 180 kilometers of trap line, come home and skin out, if we only ever got one lynx, it's 15 hours per person for that whole circuit to prepare one lynx to be ready to send theoretically to auction. So 30 hours of skilled work, high risk work. Sometimes we're out there at -20, -30, so there's like an element of danger as well. That's worth an awful lot more than $25 to me in the work alone, never mind the value of the life of that animal, which, as I said before, we regard as a gift. It's so precious. So, I mean, it's impossible to put a price tag on the value of a life, but in that context where it is a commodity, the best I can do is to offer trappers as much as possible. And so instead of the $25 at auction, I'm giving them, usually around $300.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is a big difference.
And they know the price at the beginning of the season. So then they can make informed decisions about which furs they want to target based on what sorts of furs are available on their trap line and their ability and the skills and tools that they have available to them, instead of just getting what they get and sending it to auction and hoping it sells for not a terrible price.
Wow. Wow. Now, how many other people in Canada are doing something similar? Are you a minority on this path? Are you connecting with other people who think the same?
I'm always connecting with people. I think what we're seeing in Canada is, after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission did all of their work, and they came up with the findings and the recommendations for Canadians to enact acts of reconciliation. I think one of the wonderful byproducts of that is that there is a huge increase in the demand for authentic, handcrafted Indigenous goods. And so there's a lot of Indigenous makers, and they're benefiting from that. I occupy a slightly different space because I'm not indigenous to this area. You know, my husband works in education, and he always asks people in the classroom, children and teachers, he says, who in this room is indigenous? And usually the First Nations kids raise their hands, and he looks and he says, everybody in this room is indigenous. You know, so that's something else for me to remember, is that, yes, I live here, but I'm a guest on this land. And that's part of, you know, how I can build bridges between understanding my place and where I am and whose land this is, whose furs these are, what knowledge is being made available to me. There's some things that I have the honor of having shared with me that are just for me, and I'm not allowed to share those. But to get back to your question about who else in Canada is doing this, aside from Indigenous makers, I don't know of anyone who is operating under a similar model of offering as much money as possible to the trappers. Now, granted, I'm making a really small physical product, and typically in most, you know, product-based industries, the smaller the product, the higher the margin. If you're looking at a fur coat, you're not going to have the same margins that I have. And so I am in a unique but very, very lucky position that I can share the wealth a bit. And that's something else that I've learned from my husband's culture. You know, in the potlatches where they celebrate, you know, there'll be a clan will host one of these potlatches, and they'll give away almost everything. And so they operate on this principle of redistribution of wealth. And so I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of that culture, where, you know, we in our family, we say the tide raises all ships. You know, and so if I'm doing well, everyone else has to come with me. Otherwise, I don't want to be doing well by myself. That's no fun. You know, so if I can share that, then I'm also, you know, with my business hat on, I'm thinking I'm securing my supply.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm providing these trappers with a really good income and affording them the opportunity to accept or decline, because they're in a position of power now to say, yes, I like your price, or no, I don't. You know, I think we're building respect. And I think, you know, that's the only way that a business can thrive, is if you have a healthy supply chain of folks who feel respected and valued because they are respected and valued.
Yeah, that is absolutely priceless. Now, with the state the world is in right now, with COVID, a lot of companies, a lot of businesses have been affected. Were you always selling online? How have you coped with the changing world we're living in right now?
Some days better than others. That's the real answer. In the beginning, you know, I think everybody was really, really scared. I'm lucky to live in a place where we've almost achieved herd immunity with our vaccine distribution. And, you know, it's a big day if we have like 2 or 3 cases. I think we have 1 case currently, you know, so we're quite insulated here. We're very, very safe, and we're benefiting from that. But having said that, our borders to our territory have been closed, and we don't have any tourism, and this little community relies quite heavily on that, and my business is no exception.
Yes.
So I have always had a website, but it wasn't very good.
Okay.
And my online store actually crashed on my birthday last year, which was about 10 days into the shutdown. And so after I had a small crying jag / meltdown, I put on my big girl pants and I sat down and I fixed my website. And so since then, I've taken advantage of some projects that, some funding projects that our local government has made available, and gotten opportunities to have some funding come in and work with some professionals to help me with some of the components of my marketing plan.
Right.
So in addition to having the website rebuilt and functioning properly, I was also able to start doing some work with influencers on Instagram. I was doing some pitches to magazines. And so since COVID started, our business has grown. There was a point where 70% of the revenue was coming from the website. And like I say, because we're a little bit insulated here, you know, our restrictions are pretty relaxed. So the physical store opened up quite early on.
Okay.
And so in doing that, then I obviously saw the transition in the sales from the web store to the foot traffic through the physical store. But we've experienced an increase in sales. We've grown. And since the pandemic began, we've been published in Esquire Mexico, Vogue Japan, and I've just secured 2 international pop-ups, one with a store in New York City and one in Switzerland.
Wow. Wow. That is just incredible. Exciting too, right?
It really is. And these were things that I would have been too chicken to go for before,
yes.
because I was kind of scared of my own potential. And now I figured, well, I've got nothing to lose. It's, you know, I have 2 sons, and they're 17 and 22. And my 22-year-old is too wise for his own good. He said to me one day, "Mom, If you can't get out of it, you better get into it.
Oh, wow. Our children come to teach us, right? They come to show us those things that we are so frightened of exploring. I just absolutely love your story. It is just so, so inspiring to see what you've done with this brand. And I'm hoping that we will feature some of these earrings and your jewelry pieces in our magazine. We are also looking for people who have businesses that have a social conscience.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's really important, that in whatever we do as entrepreneurs and business people, we are doing it with an awareness and a presence that takes into consideration those around us. And we use the resources we're getting respectively. You know, I love the fact that you honor the animals and you realize that they are a gift. They're gifting themselves to us. That's just so beautiful to hear. Wow. So if time was an illusion and you could go back to the younger you when you started this business, based on what life has taught you up to this point, it could be a young entrepreneur who's online fumbling, a young jeweler, a young textile designer, not knowing where to go, how to start. What 3 nuggets of wisdom would you give them?
Oh, just 3. Okay. The first one, I would say that whatever they are thinking about you is none of your damn business. You just focus on you. You can't control what they're thinking or doing anyway, so never mind them. You have plenty to think about right here with you. I would start with that. Second, I would say that with whatever your product or service is, try and be as objective as possible, especially when it comes to your pricing structure. Don't gauge any of it against what you yourself would pay for, because you are probably not your target market. That was something that was told to me when I was in my 20s. I've been self-employed since high school, and so that one has stayed with me for a very long time.
It's almost as if you, sorry, I just need to reiterate that one. Sometimes we don't know our value and we assess it based on what we know. Yet somebody else can look at you and see the value much, much higher than it actually is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Sorry, the third one.
The third one, it kind of connects to that a little bit as well. I think the third one would be just do it anyway.
Don't let fear get, right?
Yeah, don't let fear control you. The what ifs. Yeah, you know what? What if? You know, what if what if you fail? What if you succeed? Go find out. Do it anyway.
Oh, I love that. Beautiful way to end our interview. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Your presence all the way from Canada / Alaska. Alaska stuck in my head for some reason. I forgot Alaska's in the US.
We're neighbors. We all have snow still.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. Yet another fascinating story from another part of the world. I am so juiced up and excited about what's coming with the HerStory Circle. Tune in again tomorrow, because I will have yet another amazing woman sharing her story from a different part of the world. Have a fantastic evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thanks, see you.
Okay.
Hello, ladies. Welcome back. Yet another amazing presentation there. What intrigued me about this presentation, and I'm really excited that Sessa is with us right now, is the amount of knowledge that can be learned from indigenous cultures.
Yes.
You know, when I first moved to New Zealand, I was shocked at some of the things that the Maori tribe were insisting the government instill in business, in the environment. Do you know that New Zealand is the only country that recognized rivers as having a right? Narcissa, I think you can explain this in more detail, because it just intrigues me how we live life. We don't give back to nature. We are not conscious about how we are extracting and not putting back. So let's just open the floor, ladies, and discuss the last presenter, starting with you, Ruth.
You know, as she was talking about the practices, the beliefs, and the way they honor nature, the animals, it just reminded me of our history, our African history, how before I think the westernization influence came in, how we were living as one with nature. And we knew that, or the ancestors knew that Mother Earth and everything else was there to serve them, but also they had to take care of the environment, they had to take care of the things that around them, the rivers, the trees, and everything. So it was very interesting that I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many similarities between indigenous cultures all over the world. It sounds like, and then the way that they are working she's working with the tribes in order to get all the silk. It's amazing. But I wanted to see if she have pictures. Do you have a website? I want to see the jewelries that she's doing, the lines that she's doing. I'm very interested to see.
Okay, actually, as we go around the room and discuss, I'll pull out some of her pictures. She's just exquisite. Let me do that.
Yeah.
And the other thing you said, Ruth, that reminds me of Africa is in Africa, you never went hunting and took more than you needed.
No.
My grandmother used to say that people would pray over the animal before they kill it and thank it for the food. In some cultures, people kill animals for sport, just to have a trophy on a stuffed animal in their homes. And it's just horrifying when I walk into these environments where I see these poor dead animals as trophies. So let's go around the room. Janice, what's your feedback there?
Well, it was interesting to know about the fur trade. I watched a little on television, but she's very knowledgeable, extremely knowledgeable, and I like the respect that they give. I really enjoyed listening to how they look at the fur as a gift and as a reflection of them. There's a connection even when you wear it. I never even thought about that before. So that was really interesting. And I suppose not only with fur, it would apply to a lot of different things that we wear, that we come in contact with. It's almost a reverence. And so I really enjoyed going through the journey with her talking about it, and the reverence and the respect that's given to the animals. And the fact that they pay the trappers way more. I like that. You know, give them their value. So I really enjoyed listening. I really did. And I got a lot of knowledge from her presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you. Who else is there? Let's, Jessica, what was your take?
Yeah, I'm all with Janice on that whole, and hearing about the fur trade. I knew bits and pieces of it, but that was so interesting and so great to hear how all how that's all working. And then, of course, I just loved her story, how she had to change tack with COVID and had to go online and change that all. And she got the help and went for it. And look at her now. I can't wait to see the website and to see those pieces. And yeah, good on her. Congratulations. It's just absolutely magnificent. I love that.
Very inspiring. Sessa. Is Sessa muted? You're muted, honey.
Okay. I'd like to address what you said earlier, Gertrude, about the rivers. It's quite funny you brought that up, because right at this moment in time here in my hometown of Masterton, We are in negotiations with the government over our rivers, and aspects like pollution, and the fact that not too long ago we released tuna from our particular rivers. They'd been with us here in our hometown for oh, at least 100 years. Some of the eels in the waters were what we call granddaddy eels. Like they're that old that their whiskers were like trailing in the water. They're absolutely huge. And right at this moment, like I said, we're in negotiations over the rivers and what we can do to clean up our rivers, because over time, obviously, and industry and technology and everything, our rivers have become unswimmable, which is really sad, because I remember as a child I used to jump off the cliffs and swim in our beautiful rivers. So, you know, there was also a little, someone touched on, killing, Gertrude, I think it was you, touched on when your grandmother used to kill an animal for food, and they would pray over it and give thanks for the food. As a weaver, that's another thing that I do. When I'm resourcing natural feathers, because we make feather cloaks here in New Zealand. Some are contemporary, most are contemporary. But if you're lucky and you know how to get the resources, you can weave one made from all natural products. At the stand behind me, I'm actually weaving one now. It is a contemporary korowai, but likewise, when I first decided I wanted to make a natural one, and I thought, oh God, I'm not going to kill a bird. No, that's not happening. So what I did was go and, because, sometimes birds would get run over on the road and stuff like that. So we call it roadkill. So I would actually go along and pick up the roadkill off the road, take it home, and I would pray over it first and thank the bird for its beauty and for what it was going to give me. Then I would, proceed to pluck the bird, and then afterwards I would pray again and thank it again, and then bury it. So it's really, her story, her talk about the Indigenous people there. I can totally relate to it, being Indigenous here in New Zealand. In fact, probably I'm even more Indigenous than I realised, because I found out not too long ago that the first people here were actually Moriori. And I'm actually from a direct line from the Moriori people. They were here before the Maori. So, it was very interesting to find that out, that my great-great-great-grandmother was one of the Moriori. And actually, this might shock, but actually one of the last cannibals here in New Zealand. So I have a very rich culture, and I'd like to thank Vanessa for sharing. Even though she may not be Indigenous, but she fights for the Indigenous people, and I applaud her. Applaud her for her mahi, and I look forward to seeing her work.
Okay, so let me share my screen. We'll go onto her website quickly, and you ladies can get an idea of this exquisite jewelry that she makes. Okay, so here we go. So that's a necklace with copper, earrings. So very, very fine work.
Yes.
Made out of silver and fur. Can you imagine how long that would take to put that fur inside that ring? It's just exquisite. I've never seen anything like it.
Wow.
And so she prices her goods at a really good price so that people are paid what their work is worth. Absolutely exquisite.
Beautiful.
That's a ring. So much to be learned, ladies, from all of the women who are coming into the circle and sharing all of this amazing magic. It is truly humbling, when I look back at 2 years and 3,000 interviews with women from all over the world. This is such a beautiful project, and I think it will sustain us for years to come. So our next presenter is Ashley Amber. As you know, we are trying to encourage creative women to come and share as well, to share their creativity. If they dance, they can dance. If they sing, they can sing. If they are an artist, they can paint a picture. And Ashley is an artist. I'll just read out her bio. They are artists who perform, but Ashley Amber astonishes, effortlessly injecting country music with unapologetically vibrant bravado. She's shattering derivatives and demolishing partitions. So she is an African-American musician who sings country music.
Wow.
And in this interview, we wanted to share her singing as well. So we'll be serenaded with some music from the United States today. So here we go. Okay, forgive me, that didn't work. I need to just line up this video if you give me a second. Technology doesn't always work the way you want it sometimes.
No, not at all.
Oh gosh, but I'm learning just to roll with the punches these days when things go wrong. Try not to panic. Oh gosh, no, we'll get there. Thank you for your patience, ladies. Put myself
My name
on.
is Ashley Amber, and
Okay, here we go. I think I found it now. Whoops. You should sing us a song while we're waiting, ladies.
If I hate my voice, I would, but I'm going to blame it on the age.
Oh, yeah. All right, here we go.
Creative young women I've met in a very long time. Welcome to our tribe.
hello.
Name. Know your base, how old you are. Share your story with us today.
All things. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Ashley Amber, and I am from Thornton, Colorado, and which is in the middle of the U.S. for all you New Zealanders out there. I'm pretty sure you know where it is, probably better than where most people know where New Zealand is. And I currently am in Las Vegas right now, Sin City, just hanging out here, enjoying the hot weather. And I started singing when I was 6. And it's been quite a journey, as I won't say exactly how old I am, but I am 30, flirty, and thriving. That's what I will say.
I love that.
And yeah, it's been an incredible journey. I'm so thankful for where I'm at. And, I think every artist has a pivotal moment in their career, that one thing that really propels them forward. And, for me, my family was always really encouraging, and my dad especially was always really encouraging. He's actually the one that told me I could sing when I was 6 years old. And so when he got sick and, about 11 months later, he actually passed away. And this was,
sorry.
This was, I was 11 when he got sick and 12 when he passed away. So, I mean, this was a long time ago, but because of who he was as a person, he just always encouraged us to, follow our dreams. And I think at 6, I didn't quite no, I was just like, yeah, I like to sing. Like, this is fun. I could sing along to the radio. I could sing on pitch and like, look at me. But once he passed away and once I really kind of started becoming a woman and having to find myself and just kind of having to be independent, through that journey is when I decided that I wanted to do music full time and there was nothing else I wanted to do with my life. And since then, it's been quite a roller coaster and a very big journey. It hasn't been just one thing. It hasn't been like, hey, I just started singing country music out of the womb and that's all I've been doing my whole life. I've sung every genre and I've had to take the scenic route. I mean, quite literally, since I've been to 72 different countries performing.
Oh my
And
gosh.
New Zealand is one of them. I actually have a great story about New Zealand when I was there. The seagulls there, they are very they are not shy. And I was eating a burger. I got a burger and I can't remember the name of the place, but it's a very well-known place. One of the local New Zealanders like, oh yeah, you got to go to this burger place. And so got a burger, took it because it was right across the beach. This was in Auckland, New Zealand. And I was sitting on the beach. I took a bite. I was chatting with my friends. And all of a sudden this giant seagull just went whoosh, and took my burger out of my hands. And then all of a sudden there was a whole flock of seagulls and we had to leave and I had to go buy another burger and trying to get a free one. There was no excuse for that one. They're like, yeah, sorry, that doesn't really work for us. But that's my story about New Zealand. But so music has taken me all over the world and has eventually led me to where I am today, which is so exciting because all of those things that I've learned along the way are really starting to come in handy right now. So I'm just thankful for the journey. And it just goes to show you why it's so important to just embrace the journey and enjoy the ride. And as long as you're happy and you're moving forward, there is 100% nothing wrong with that.
I absolutely love that. Not many people get to know what their true life calling really is. It sounds to me like you're one of those fortunate ones who had the parents, who had the father figure in your life, who helped reflect that back to you. If you were to have a conversation with a younger you, that young woman who was starting off on this amazing journey, trying to be a musician, based on what life has taught you, what nuggets of wisdom, what advice would you give that young woman?
I would tell her to never doubt herself. The world is filled with people that love to tell you what you can and can't do. Yeah. And it's important to remember that sometimes people are unhappy and sometimes it makes them feel better to bring you down or to feel like they're sharing what life really is. Like, hey, this is the real world. And I'm not saying that we should live in like cupcakes and rainbows and, always live in fantasy land, but I think it's important to remember that you are enough. And I would tell my younger self that you are enough. Just who you are is enough. And all you have to keep doing is leading with your heart, leading with love, following your passion and your dreams from the right place. And no matter how long it takes, you're going to get to your end result as long as you keep showing up and keep being positive and keep giving it your all. Like that is the one thing I would, I guess that was a couple things, but I feel like it falls under the same umbrella. But I would definitely tell my younger self that.
That's just awesome. A lot of young people do give up on their visions and their dreams. And when those stumbling blocks come in, they let go of it. So you live and breathe your music. I could see that. I told you I've been cyber stalking you. I've gone all over the internet just tracking to see what you've been up to. Where does the inspiration come from? Do you write your own songs? Where does that come from? Where does that creativity come from?
The creativity, sometimes I don't even know. I'll be like going to write a song and, I'll get an idea for a hook and I'm like, where did that even come from? I don't even know. It's as if I'm channeling a different energy that like takes over me when I really decide to write a song. And I don't always just sit. I do write my own music, not all of my own music. I think it's important to be open to other songwriters, because
Yes.
as talented as you may be, there's also some other really amazingly talented people out there. So as an artist, it's to your benefit to utilize as many resources as possible. There's so many writers out there, so it's easy to find songs that reflect your true voice, even though you didn't write a single lyric to them. And whenever I always say, look at Whitney Houston, she didn't write any of her music, but you can argue that her voice alone is she's a songwriter, because her voice is what makes the songs and what brings them to life, you know?
That's so true.
So yeah, absolutely. So I basically, like, if I'm trying to get an idea for a song, I'll go on walks. I have a puppy now. So we'll go for like a mile walk or maybe a 2 mile walk, and I'll listen to music and you know, just sit and think and reflect, and ideas might pop in my head, and I'll just write them down real quick in my phone, in my notes.
Yes.
And then I'll revisit them later, and I'll be like, oh, I feel like I wrote this really cool line down. And then I'll write about it, or I'll be like, ooh, that's a great song title. And so when I go into a writing session, I'll be like, hey, I have this idea for a song. This is a song title. This is what my vision is for it. Let's go. And surprisingly, you know, I've written songs in less than an hour. So it just depends. And some songs take 2 days. It really just depends. So yeah, that's kind of where I draw my inspiration, is just from everything around me. And from personal experience, of course. Yeah.
And why the decision to sing country? You know, I've always been curious to know what inspires a particular person to go down a certain genre. Where does that come from in your background?
Yeah, so there's so many reasons to sing country. One is my family and we grew up in the suburbs. So it was a predominantly white neighborhood. We were the only, you know, Black family on the block. And that's what everybody listened to. So when I started going to school and when I started listening to my own music, because, you know, in my household, my dad loved Earth, Wind and Fire and Spinners, and my mom loved the Bee Gees, and we listened to a lot of Motown. So we listened to that kind of music. But then you go out to school and you start listening to what your friends are listening to. Like, they're like, oh, did you see so-and-so? He's so cute. Or look at Justin Timberlake and blah, blah, blah. And that's when I discovered country, is because there was a pep assembly and the football team was dancing to a Tim McGraw song. And everybody, I kid you not, the entire school knew this song. And I was looking around like, did I miss something? Was there a rehearsal or something for this? Because I don't know this song. And that's kind of how my journey began, as I started listening to Tim McGraw. I listened to a lot of 90s country. So, you know, Tim McGraw, and like late 90s, early 2000s. So, you know, Garth Brooks and Jody Messina and Leanne Rimes and Faith Hill, Shania Twain. So I really grew up listening to that pop crossover country, which just was very similar to, you know, what pop music is. It's just slightly different instrumentation and just a little bit different vocal styling. But if you really listen down to the songs at the core, I mean, they're really the same thing. Yeah. And so that's where I fell in love with it. And when I was old enough, I was signed to an independent label at 19, but they wanted me to do R&B and like hip hop and things like that. And just based off of my look. And I was like, hey, like, I know I look this way, but I don't sing that way. Like, I don't have that kind of voice. My voice isn't like that. I know I look like this, but that's not my tone.
That's not who I am.
Yeah. I was like, my tone is much lighter. It's pop. It's this. And I was like, actually, I want to sing this. And they're like, yeah, that's funny. You can't do that. And when you're young, you're impressionable. So you say, well, I guess if enough people tell me that I can't do this, like maybe I can't, maybe I should get in where I fit in, you know, type situation. And I did that for a little bit, and I was really unhappy, and I ended up walking away from the deal. And I just was trying to I guess, discover myself as an artist. I was like, well, if I can't be a recording artist because they won't let me be who I want to
Who I
be,
am.
then
Yes.
and then what am I supposed to do? And so I was waiting tables. I waited tables off and on for a decade. Woo.
Wow.
And I met a good friend who is a pianist and like a music director, and very, very talented and a wonderful human being. And she was
Mm.
like, "What are you doing waiting tables at TGI Fridays?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't know, but I want to sing. That's all I want to do. I just want to sing." And she was like, "Well, you should do musical theater. You have a calling for it. Like, you're a natural
Mm.
performer. Like, you don't just sing, like you emote, which is a gift." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, cool. What do I do?" And she helped me get ready for a couple auditions, which I totally bombed. I was terrible. I was so nervous. Couldn't even sing my songs. But then finally, I went to an audition where I felt confident enough, and I landed one of the leading roles. And from there on out, I didn't stop working, and I did musical theater. I've done so many shows: Avenue Q, Rent, The Color Purple. And so all of a sudden I had
Oh,
this huge
wow.
musical theater background without having a musical theater background.
That's
And
so crazy.
yeah. And so I was getting paid to wear costumes and like sequins and to dance and to play these characters on stage. It was awesome. And then that kind of led me to some other opportunities, which led to other opportunities, which led to headlining my own show and traveling the world, which is why I have been to 72 different countries, performing, which then led to meeting my now manager, who is Don Ellis Gatlin, who was one part of Daryl and Don Ellis Gatlin. They're a country duo. They were nominated like 7 times for Duo of the Year, and he's related to the
Oh,
Gatlin brothers, which is a very popular, country music group. And
yes.
I met him, and he was like, "Dude, what do you like?" And he said the same thing as my friend. He's like, "What are you doing performing here?" Like, he's like, "Not that this is amazing. Like, this is a great gig, but," he's like, "I would love to work with an artist like you," and blah, 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 blah. And we started talking, and, he kind of started name dropping a lot. And so, when people name drop, sometimes you're like, you don't know them. Like, you're
Yeah.
just, you don't know anybody. You don't know anybody. And that's kind of what happened. But something told me to take his card, look him up. And I did. And he was exactly who he said he was. And
Wow.
right? It's so crazy. And so we kept in touch for 2 years. And
Mhm.
then I called him out of the blue one day, and I was like, "Hey, Don," because in our conversation, I was like, "Yeah, I always wanted to be the Beyonce of country." And he was
Yes.
like, "Oh, that's $1 million idea." And I was like, "I know." And yeah, I called him, and I was like, "Hey, remember when I said I want to be the Beyonce of country?" He's like, "Yeah, of course." I was like, "Well, I'm dead serious, and this is why. Here's my story. This is why, and
Yes.
here's also why." And it's about the music, and it's about the journey, and it's about just being able to share my story. And what I love about
Mm.
country music is it's such a literal genre of music.
Yes.
People are writing exactly what they feel, what they see, what they know. They're not writing beyond that. They're not trying to be metaphorical or
Yeah.
mysterious with their
Their
writing. It's just
stories, right?
exactly. And
Yeah.
very, very similar to musical theater, right?
Yeah.
Again, just packaged differently. And
Yeah.
so, which would make sense why I love musical theater so much, because I love the story aspect, which is why I love country music. I love the story aspect. And I told him why. And also that I was like, "Have you ever noticed, like, I know like this is your genre. You've been in Nashville for 32 years, but have you not noticed that there's zero representation of Black women in country music?"
Yeah. So
I was like,
true.
I've done my research. I was like, "This is not okay. This is 2019." Well, when I called him,
Yes.
I was like, "We just started 2019, and how is it there's never been a Black female to even reach the top 40?" I was like, "How is this okay?" I was like, "This is not okay. I shouldn't have to, when I have a daughter, I shouldn't have to tell her after all this time being like, 'Hey, baby girl, reach for the stars, but just so you can't reach all of them because you're
Yeah.
different.' And because you're different means that you can't get everything that everybody else has." Like I
Mm.
was never raised like that, and I don't want to raise my daughter, and nobody should be raised like that. So there's so many different aspects of why I do what I do, and why even after all this time and so many no's and so many setbacks and so many detours, I'm still standing and I'm not going
Mm.
anywhere. Like Nashville's getting used to me, and they're just gonna have to continue to get used to me.
Oh gosh, I absolutely love the tenacity and the fire in you. Now, I can't stop this interview without asking the most pivotal question. And it's about your hair, that crowning glory that you have. How
Oh,
did that
yes, yes.
hairstyle come to being? It's just so exquisite.
Well, thank you very much. I started rocking braids just like this right now, in my early 20s.
Okay.
And it was just because I wanted something different. I was sick of wearing wigs. I was sick of being ashamed of my hair. I wasn't having it anymore. So I kind of started rocking it like this. And then one day I told my hairstylist, I was like, what would happen if we just braided the sides and like let the middle just be natural?
Just be itself. Yes.
Yeah. And she was like, huh. She was like a mohawk. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to shave my sides. Like I want it braided.
Yes.
And she was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And that was kind of the early stage of the frohawk. Like if anybody, were to like dig deep on social media, you could definitely find it from about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And that I used to do like, like the curl, like the hot rollers. And so it had a little bit different look. And then over time I was like, all right, let's not use those anymore. I just want it to be like my fro, just like my natural fro. And then it was that. And then over time, my hair started growing. And then over time, I just wanted to be more dramatic. And so that's when I decided to, add a little bit of extensions to it to give it that, more
volume.
More volume and just more of that, like, I'm here on stage, like I have a presence factor. And then once I did that, it took it to like the next
level.
And then once that happened, I was like, well, even if I wanted a different hairstyle, it is not happening.
Not gonna happen
anytime soon. My frohawk is my style, and it is what I will be rocking for as long as I possibly can. As long as there's edges here, I'm gonna keep rocking it. Yeah.
It certainly is a very unique signature look. Oh, I just love it. I went all over the internet kind of looking at the evolution, especially on your Instagram account. It kind of evolved slowly. Beautiful.
It did. Thank you so much. But I wanted to celebrate just who I am, and I wanted to celebrate my culture and my background. I think, sometimes, for the longest time, being a Black woman, it wasn't appropriate to wear a natural hair. It wasn't appropriate to wear, cornrows like I have. But if you really look at the history, I mean, cornrows are a part of our culture.
They are.
I mean, they were braiding maps into kids' heads for freedom.
Exactly.
It's so much deeper than just
the
having
hairstyle.
braids.
Exactly.
And I'm proud. I'm mixed. My mom is white, and I love my mom. She's amazing. But I am proud to be a Black woman. I'm proud. I don't care when people see me that they're not. They don't be like, oh, look at that mixed girl. They say, oh, look at that Black girl. Look at that Black woman. I'm proud of that, and I'm proud to showcase that. So I just want to. I feel like there's no better way to scream it from the rooftops than to just have a giant frohawk with cornrows. I mean, hey,
just being a full expression of yourself. Oh,
exactly.
Man. Thank you so much for this interview. It's people like you that make me want to wake up every day and do what I'm doing, shining a light on all these unique individuals around the world. And thank you for what you bring to the world with the stories, with the music. Absolutely a delight to have met you.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And just, thank you for, giving me and so many other incredible people just a platform to, share our voices and share stories and hopefully inspire, because I know at the end of the day, that's why I'm here. That's what I started this for. I started this to inspire the next generation to create change and to question the norm and to challenge the narrative and to break stereotypes and to change them, because it's up to us. It's up to the younger generation to keep, moving the next generation forward. And so
create a new paradigm for the future. I love it.
Exactly. So thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Yes. And I love your accent. Yeah. I love
and thank
New
you
Zealand
to
accent.
everybody who tuned in today. I will be back again tomorrow. I told you we have some phenomenal women, creative souls, stepping forward, sharing their stories, and changing the world one story at a time, one woman at a time. This is Gertrude Matcha here in beautiful Wellington, New Zealand. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Bye for now. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, ladies, yet another source of inspiration for us today. I'm going to just play one of her videos so you can see her hair, because she had her hair braided there, before we go into our discussion about her. So give me a second. It's a 3-minute video, but what a fascinating young woman. Where are you?
I was just about to say, you has an ability to be in different parts of the world at the same time. You're in Wellington just now.
Oh, Ruth.
There's a word for them. Time travelers, I believe, as well.
I can be in many places at once. A black girl singing country music, very unique.
Yes.
Sassy too. I love the way she's dressed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
and the
man.
energy that she's exuding. Oh, amazing young woman.
And you can tell that she loves what she does, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think her story to me kind of is a reminder that if you have a vision and a dream for something, you shouldn't give up on it.
Yes.
She waited tables for 10 years before she got her breakthrough. But it's like she kept holding on to the vision, and that's really what got her there.
Yeah.
What did you get out of this one, Ruth?
But she spoke about the guy, her producer, who kept dropping names, and it's like what you said at the beginning. With I think it was Michelle or one of the speakers, I don't know. Anyway, the breadcrumbs, that you leave breadcrumbs, and there are signs that are coming at you. That this is, and if she had just forgotten, if she had just, totally disregarded his invitation, like if you need anything, just reach out, she would have lost on an opportunity. But she reached out. So asking for help, sometimes, we just need to ask for help. Like you've taught me, what's the worst that anyone can say is no.
They didn't say no, yes or no. And if they say no, fine, ask the next person. If they say yes, you've made it. I love it.
So that, yeah.
And also just knowing that the right people come into your life at the right time.
Yes.
People don't bump into you by accident. Like she said, she wasn't sure that this person was authentic, and he was. So never judge a book by its cover. Never make assumptions of people. You just don't know where in your journey they can take you. Yes. So Sessa, what was your takeaway from this one?
Well, Miss Amber, I just have to say you totally rock. I like the way you present yourself. You really speak of the youth of today, embracing your individuality and pursuing your career in country music. Wow, like you said, it was unheard of for a black woman to do that. So, yeah. Awesome. And you're a great singer. I loved it. I enjoyed your video. I was actually thinking, while listening to you, I was going, hurry up and get to the music, because I was like, come on, I want to hear this girl sing now. You know, I take my hand off, my hat off to your inspiration, your father, your mother's encouragement. Because yes, with support, we're capable of doing anything.
It's
And
so true.
You rock, girl. You go.
Thank you, Cessa. Okay, so we have two more presenters one before you, Cessa. You will be the last person to present today. Am I right, Ruth, in terms of time?
No, I thought we were at the end of the day. It's 12 your time.
Oh, it's 12. Okay, so Cessa, you're it.
Oh, dude. Well, I could always leave it for another day.
Okay, let's leave it for tomorrow or the day after. This is what happens when you're having so much fun. I didn't even realize you've been online for 3 hours.
Yes.
Life is good when you're enjoying yourselves. No, thank you so much, ladies, for being with us today.
Company.
Thank you to the panel who contributed their ideas, their thoughts, their insights. Thank you to the beautiful Cessa in New Zealand, Ruth in Zimbabwe. We had Janine in the United States, and we had Jessica in Queensland, Australia. So come back again tomorrow, everybody. We will be here with another lineup of amazing stories. Have a fantastic day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world.